Oh, Sinja uli di sombranzelten mak et zu ita saluda antes di niga Radzaudzan malak estrezas durante todo memu a nogi distancia como kupugi palu zangiman malak guafi con una sughiairi preba tu la noci nai banderata gaigi pues atan fanni bandera kau esta pagua pumalapa giluk tanu man libri sentami ti man ko badi
mastakilu hina soku kinini mastakalo ikurason hu ten imas figu nani nasinyahu ufresin maisatu para by putehi ten defendi hinengi cultura lenguaje airi hano tani tanu tamoru yes tani tanu tamoru yes ni ire shaku la 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 did it to get into stop that 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 it's the who what with my ihilo tani biblia ibandera ngohan yes 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 ibandera ngohan yeah.
Take you to an island where the sun never stops shining. Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining. Can I take you to a place I call home? Down south in Pneumatic where my family roams. It's a hot summer day and we all kicking back, sipping on a cold one. Now what you think about that? That's life. Here on this island paradise, yo, I'm going back soon, but I might think twice, cause that city life is way too fast, yo. I'd rather stay in Guam because this life is bad. Sand beaches, surrounded by my nature. No need to worry about these player haters and my culture. I got love for my people, still rapping Guam, staying true to my chat loose. Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining. Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining.
I come representing Guam, USA. Raised on a hill in the Ville by the bay. Y to the O and to the Izzy. Me Scoop Dog on the mic getting busy. Y'all know this pot. Cruising the day, then park to Spock after dark in the village. Jordan is where you'll find me, or down in Naval Mag with my nails right beside me. We just chillin', cause that's the way we do. Call the Chelus, tell them we gon' barbecue. The crew rollin' by tonight. We got Slim on the left and YD to the right.
Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining. Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining.
I gotta get some brew, cause I just got paid. Put up the canopy to get some shade, so we could kick back like it was nothing at all. While my primos and my homies playing basketball. The day is going smooth the way I thought it would be. Me and my family by the coconut tree, relaxed, waiting for the food to be done. My nephew's calling me to play one-on-one. I said, wait boy, I have to make the tanak. And once I get finished, I cook the tatagat, so we can chow down like we never did. Call everybody, especially the kids. We're just kicking back in the village. All the kids are playing around with the family. We're just kicking back on the island. Memories we're talking about with just you and me.
Oh yeah. We're here in the beautiful island of Guam, sitting down in the wonderful village of Humanity. It's a beautiful day today. Sun shining bright, shimmering along the bay. Family, children laughing around. That's how we do it down here on my island.
Let me take you to an island where the sun never stops shining.
Here we go, here we go, here we go now.
Let me take you to an island where the sun
Good
never stops
morning, Guam. Right on. Hey, good morning, Jay. Yeah, with the animal sounds continue. You heard his cock-a-doodle-doo yesterday. Now you get a little bit of Pasto de Carabao.
There you go.
Good morning, 624.
We are celebrating livestock on this show.
Yeah, we are.
That was not a good. Okay, you know what's crazy? That was not a good. That was not a good cow, by the way, or carabao. And actually, what sound does a bonado make? Deer are generally
They do
very
like
quiet.
you need the, it's like a crazy sound. Sometimes it sounds like a baby crying.
Okay, I got a lot of DMs yesterday, and thank you guys, by the way.
Good job, Jay.
People were actually, and
Your DMs was like home plate yesterday. Everyone was sliding right into it, right?
seriously,
Yeah, good
like
job, man.
people were like, "Wait, was that actually you that was making a chicken sound, or
Yeah.
was that an actual rooster?"
That was actually,
I was like, "Yeah,
you.
we're a private sector company, and I really brought a chicken in here, and
Yeah.
had it, and I cued it, and I was like, okay, talk."
The liability, unless it was a service chicken, Jay, then you're good. If it's a service cock, then you're fine. You can take it anywhere.
I was actually amazed that that people thought that was a. Thank you. I guess I've
Yeah.
got a second career now, like imitating animals.
Chickens,
But
yeah.
you can do a really, really mean impersonation. I know this for a fact of a gecko. No. The ones that are loud, not the little click. The chirpy ones.
Yeah. Oh, that. We can't do it now.
Yeah, the mask. Blame
Yeah,
the mask.
it's a mask, bro.
But for those of you guys who remember when Guam, our friends at the Department of Agriculture had that little campaign about the coqui frog.
Yep, I remember
guys-
that. Yeah.
Dude,
Did we win that? I think that's something that we won.
we beat those guys back.
Yeah.
Hawaii, not so much. Like
Yeah.
our friends out there. Remember, the coqui frog. For those of you guys who don't know, they're about the size of your fingernail.
Yeah, little tiny frog, big bark.
But yeah, you remember what they said about Spider-Man?
Kind of like Doug Moylan, I would compare the coqui frog.
Remember what they always said? The line about Spider-Man. He's like, oh, it's he's Peter Parker's a teenager, but he's got the proportional strength
Of a spider.
of a spider.
Right.
These little coqui frogs could make so much noise when they barked by themselves. It's like, wow, dude, that little tiny thing. Now you put about 10,000 of these little buggers together. I mean, they shut down a hotel in Honolulu because they were so loud and the guests could not take it.
The white people couldn't hang. They're like, oh my God, the noise.
Yeah. But remember that there were T-shirts made. There were there were ad campaigns. It's like there was a song. Did you make that jingle? It was like something of the coqui frog.
But I think there was like a 687 frog or something you'd call.
Yeah.
Right. Then they would send in the frog team.
Frog Squad.
You guys had to be there. If you don't know what we're talking about, you had to be there.
Okay, so since we're talking about frogs and old school and T-shirts, right? Remember, I think in the 80s, there was a T-shirt that they would sell at Gibson's at Guam Nice T-shirts.
Yeah.
And it would sell Guam, flat frog capital of the world. And remember, there was a frog and his tongue was out and his eyes had the X on it. And it had the tire mark right across it.
Right.
That was classic.
Thank you, guys. When we opened the show, really, it's just wherever Jason wants to go. You never know where he's going to go. Usually it's down memory lane, which is a road I'm very familiar with. Good morning at 6:26 Wednesday.
Or Amnesia Lane, as it were.
February 9th, brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, ITD, and Jack in the Box.
You have a fan, Maggie Monroe Anderson. Who, again, Maggie, thank you for that tip about that big traffic jam through Hotel Pago the other day. She is loving she gives you 9,000 emojis.
Good morning. Superintendent of Education John Fernandez coming on the show this morning. So is the Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Therese Terlahi, Tomas Maglotnia, our CNMI correspondent. Plus, we got a bunch of interviews. We're able to catch up with JMI Edison's John Elau, and we'll play that coming up here. I
produced that interview. You and Bree interviewed John yesterday. I mean, he was very diplomatic. He was very, very accommodating. He spoke very, very honestly, and again, it's a process, right? What they're going through with JMI and the Office of Public Accountability and everything like that. But that was an intense interview.
Yeah,
talking about what may have been said, what may have been implied, the whole thing about the hey bro.
Yeah. He said that maybe they shouldn't have used the what was it he called it, the bro noun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll play that. It's coming up. It's a very interesting interview, and it's all on the way here.
I did a couple interviews yesterday, and then Nestor got Lester Carlson.
Nestor got Lester.
Yep. I mean, you want to talk about going inside
it's
the
Lester,
numbers?
interviewed by Nestor.
Yeah, Nestor and Lester. I love it. But, I mean, they went inside, at least from the executive branch's perspective.
Yeah.
He said he is confident and he is comfortable, Lester did, about where they stand with the budget and, like...
It was interesting because he was talking about the general fund and how the governor's budget proposal is a big signal on the health of the general fund, which kind of departs from what the legislature's been saying. They've been saying, hey, we don't know how much money's coming in the general fund. Governor Lulian Guerrero's got that ARP piggy bank, and there was that report that we talked about last week. Some 400, I want to say it's over 410 million unspent in American Rescue Plan funds. Okay, so there's that, and we'll see how this whole budget process plays out.
I wonder if Madam Speaker, when she comes on, feels as optimistic about the budget.
I wonder.
But it was funny because Nestor, as he always does, because he's
Lester be smoking that election year. He's smoking that election year.
But
budget.
When Nestor was doing the interview yesterday, Nestor asked Lester. I got to make sure I get
Nestor
this right.
asked Lester,
as he always does, because he's such a gentleman, right? He's like an old school reporter. Then he goes, "Okay, so Lester, is there anything else you'd like to add?" Then he goes, "Honestly." After 22 minutes and everything, he goes, "You turned this thing 6 ways from Sunday." He's like, I got nothing else. And you asked basically every question you could about the budget.
Yep, that's coming up with Nestor interviewing Lester right here on the link at 6:30. Let's go ahead and get into the first look at news. Facebook Live, thank you guys so much. Remember, we're on Facebook Live all the way till 9 o'clock, and then we clock out. And then we got some changes next week that we'll share with you this morning coming up here on the link, which is, again, brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Good morning to our Facebook Live audience, and here comes your first look at news from the KUAM News team with the very latest. Good morning, Jason Solis.
All right, good morning to all of you out there all over the world. Link fam, we're glad you woke up with us this morning. If you're on Facebook Live, remember, we're also on YouTube Live and on Twitter Live, too. So for all of our friends across social media, half a day to all of you. The number you need to know today, 844. That was the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases as per the Joint Information Center's report last night. Also, equally tragic, an 83-year-old man's death is the 299th coronavirus-related fatality in our island community. That man was partially vaccinated and declared dead on arrival at GMH on February the 7th. As I said, 844 cases reported by public health. Now, the number of test samples, because remember, like, you got that weird area where it's like Monday, we finally get the private sector clinics. They report their data. Tuesday, usually we don't know the full number. So test positivity rate unavailable, but 844. That is a lot of positive cases. 113 were reported of those through the Department of Defense. As far as hospitalizations, 46 of your fellow Guamanians have been admitted to various island hospitals. 30 people at the Guam Memorial Hospital in Tamuning, 14 up here in Dededo at Guam Regional Medical City, and in Negania Heights, a pair of your fellow Guamanians have been admitted to the U.S. Naval Hospital. 7 people are in the ICU this morning, with 3 on ventilators. The total number of people in isolation due to coronavirus this morning, nearly 5,900. Let's get into your news stories now. Of course, brought to you by Pacific Points, our friends at Pacific Points. Make sure to check them out because they will take care of you. And we're going to go to our link update with Hannah Devanzo. We'll get to that in just a moment. So remember, we want to tell you guys, when you go to Pacific Points, make sure to tell them your friends on the link sent you, because they got really hard people working there, people making sure that they can get you well fed, well refreshed. You got your PPE, your personal protective gear. You got your snacks. That's where I buy my hand soap, too. I just go into Pacific Points, and they always ask me, they're like, "Are you registered with Pacific Points?" And I was like, duh. But they're going to take care of you. And also, if you want to do me like a little bit solid, tell them that the link recommended you guys try those little coffee cakes. They got those little tiny cakes with the coffee powder on top of it. I love those. They are amazing. Okay, I'm seeing in the comments on Twitter, people are asking for the numbers again. So, we'll make sure to get to Hannah shortly. But we want to tell you guys about those numbers again. 844 new COVID cases were reported by public health. Of those 844, 113 were reported through the Department of Defense. Hospitalizations, as it stands this morning, 46 people are in the hospital, 30 of them at GMH, 14 at GRMC, and 2 at U.S. Naval Hospital. 7 people, as I said, once again, are in the ICU this morning. 3 people are on ventilators. The total number of people that are isolating, nearly 5,900, just a few people shy of that. And also, very, very tragic news. So please say some prayers this morning for the soul on the passing of the 299th person to pass away from COVID-19 in our island community. That man was partially vaccinated, as I said, and declared dead on arrival at the Guam Memorial Hospital. That was on February the 7th. Want to give you a little bit of a heads up to the guests, as Chris was mentioning. Not only do we have that interview with John Elau from the JMI Edison organization, where Chris and Bree actually interviewed John about the rather turbulent decision by, or the turbulence caused by the decision by the Office of Public Accountability and John's company about the procurement appeal. That's coming up later on in the show. Also, as we said, Nestor Lecanto interviewed Lester Carlson, the director of the Bureau of Budget Management and Research. They were talking about optimism despite the current tourism slump and the end of most federal pandemic programs. Now, also, what we didn't tell you, but also is coming up, you can go on YouTube right now and you can watch Nestor's in full Zoom story. Because remember, right here on the link, we didn't even plan for a guest. We got our friend now, Phil Leddy. He is, of course, he was talking about programs that he is setting up. He's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, and he wants to take care of the community. He's also the executive director of the new Action PAC. So Action Political Action Committee. So action's in there twice. It's a nonprofit group heading into this year's election season that is gauging the fitness of your potential and existing candidates on their stances on various issues relative to the island's private sector. So, Nestor's got
we're going to take a quick break. We're having some technical difficulties on my side, so we'll take a break.
Can you tell I was just like stretching there?
Good, very good job stretching, bro. This is turning into a yoga class. It's 6:35. Quick break. We're back with more of The Link next. Good morning.
We want to see your football fan love in time for Valentine's Day and the big game on February 14th. KUAM News and KUAM Digital are rounding up and showcasing football lovers all over the island every day before the big game and giving one lucky fan and their loved ones the chance to win the ultimate game day Valentine's bash at home. All you got to do is send an email to promotions@KUAM.com with the subject Love and Football, or tag and send a DM to the KUAM News page on Instagram. Make sure to include your name and contact info and your love and football story. Each and every submission will be entered to win a game day love fest at their home on Valentine's Day, including a brand new 65-inch 4K TV from Buddy's Home Furnishings, party platters from participating restaurants delivered by Uno Go, beverages and swag from Heineken and Stoli, sweet treats, roses for your loved ones, and much more. One lucky winner will be announced on the air on February 11th. Some conditions apply. Winner must be a resident of Guam, must be 21 years or older, and must be available to be featured in a live shot from their home on Game Day, Monday, February 14th.
See KUAM.com for complete rules and regulations. Love and Football is presented by Uno Go and Buddy's Home Furnishings. Let us show you why Buddy's is better. Jamaican Grill, Yaman, together we can. Heaven Sent, the essence of all things beautiful. The Bottle Shack, Heineken and Stoli. Enjoy responsibly. And CS Cafe.
The KUAM Podcast Network is back and on demand, featuring a great variety of podcasts from our island and region, including culture, lifestyle, awareness, crime, politics, commentary, comedy, and entertainment. Available on most streaming platforms. The KUAM Podcast Network. Subscribe and listen now.
Beginning February 7th, The Link will be broadcast exclusively on Breeze 93.9 FM and live streamed on our Facebook and YouTube channels from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. weekday mornings. We're making way for some exciting changes to our KUAM News lineup, so stay tuned.
Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutters, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Buenas Sanhafadi. Part of taking care of yourself is participating in cancer screening. Make it a point to see your doctor at least once a year for an annual visit to discuss your risk and to determine which tests are right for you. Many tests are free or covered by insurance, and there may be programs to help those who don't have insurance. Cancer screening can save your life. There are screening tests that can catch cancer early when it may be easier to treat. So learn more at cancer.org/getscreened.
We know you're tired of hearing about COVID-19. Some of you are probably wondering whether this is ever going to end. However long it takes, we all have to do our part, including our children, to hold the line. You can protect yourself and your family by getting vaccinated.
And if you're already vaccinated, don't let your guard down because you can still give and get COVID-19. And if you're not vaccinated, remember that if you catch the virus, you could suffer more severe complications. At the end of the day, it's the choices we make to protect ourselves, our families, and our community that will control the spread.
We know it sounds repetitive at this point, but again, wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask.
Together, we have to hold the line. Our air cons have been out up here in the front. Long sleeves for about a week. What we're doing is we're trying to get our power bill down so that the CCU can give big fat raises to the big bosses over there. We're trying to do our part. We're trying to do our part, guys. I know. It's very noble of us, but it is what it is.
Okay, so for those of you kids who plan on studying computer science,
yeah,
airflow is very, very important.
Can you explain what's happening? So there's a computer here that we play all the stories off of, and
yeah, and I mean, you know, and we keep all of our air studios, including this one.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a room where we do all, you know, where we do voice work and we do production in. There's this studio. There's a studio where we do our podcast in, and there's like, you know, the main TV studio.
Yeah.
We keep them basically like Siberia.
Yeah.
Because there's lights, because there's microphones. There's all of these electronics overheat very, very easily.
Not lately though. There's something with the aircon, and it's just in this studio.
Yeah.
So it's a very hot show. That's why the show's been so hot, guys, the last few weeks.
So So one of the computers that we use up here and everything.
The
like
one that's behind here.
Yeah.
On my side.
It's having like, excuse me, Red. I believe I have the vapors this morning.
I know. All I heard was might be Guam is hot, might be Guam is hot, and it was like died out. So we're going to try something different here, guys. We'll figure it out. We'll go ahead and get into the news. Let's do this again. Brought to you by Pacific Points at 6:45 on this hump day, Wednesday, February 9th. Jason Solis with the very latest, hopefully, from the KUAM news team. Jay, good morning.
All right, good morning. Hafa everybody. Well, if you're able to say the rosary in about 30 seconds, please do so. Because we are going to go back to the newsroom where our Hannah Devanzo is anchoring this morning's link update, of course, brought to you by our friends at Pacific Points, where you can do more, get more. So here is Hannah with this morning's news update.
This news update is brought to you by Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Hafa, I'm Hannah Devanzo with your link update. In an interview with KUAM, JMI Edison continues to defend they did nothing wrong, and the OPA decision to dismiss their appeal related to an airport contract was based solely on the use of a word bro and not on the merits and the baggage of the winning contractor.
Instead of getting TMI, JMI says the OPA's decision only focused on the issue of BRO.
In hindsight, the pronoun might have been poorly chosen, but there's nothing illegal with the word bro. There is something illegal when a contractor working for the government of Guam, GIAA, continues to operate as a contractor without a contractor's license.
JMI specifically appealed GIAA's contract award to Menzies for a baggage handling system because the company didn't have a contractor's license. But it was an email from JMI to CLB Executive Director Cecil Orsini that the OPA took issue with, ultimately deciding this was a case of a bro just helping out another bro. JMI's John Elau, however, says the OPA focused on the pronoun instead of the actual letters submitted by Orsini, which he maintains does not need action by the CLB board because it's a citation.
So on the two findings, the first finding was really, CLB stating that Menzies did not have a license. The second finding was that the work at GIAA required a contractor's license. And that's all the letter, that's the content of what the CLB letter had, was just those two findings. There wasn't any manipulation of any other thing. It's just, those are pretty straightforward.
According to JMI, the facts were lost in all the turbulence.
It just became intertwined because of the auditors, the OPA's ruling. But really, if you go back since day one in September, when we FOIA GIA, we communicate with the CLB, the staffer gave us the information that they weren't licensed. So, you just got to go back from the beginning rather than start at December. And that's when, I wish, the auditor should have conducted a full hearing so that way he can call us all stakeholders in, people from Menzies, me, GIA, and get the whole story.
For now, the issue is grounded with the OPA, but JMI is charting a new flight path at the Superior Court. The entire ordeal costing a pretty hefty ticket.
It's disappointing in two ways. Not only are we fighting, spending money with our lawyers on the OPA, but now we got to spend more money when we go to the court system. Whereas if it stayed in the OPA and if we had a full hearing, then all the stakeholders would have been sworn in and the OPA would have learned more about the history from September, not just basing his decision on December. And solely on the word bro, which is not illegal.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Sabrina Salas, Matanani.
Looking into procurement at the Guam Department of Education is Senator Sabina Perez. The Democrat lawmaker sent over a Freedom of Information Act request to GDOE wanting information about maintenance services, air conditioners, and computers. Specifically, she wants all communications as well as meeting notes. GDOE has acknowledged receipt and is working on their response. The government of Guam continues to ride high on tax revenue collection, says Budget Director Lester Carlson, and he's very confident about next fiscal year 2023's proposed spending plan of nearly $1 billion, which is $50 million more than this year, Nestor Lecanto reports.
Budget Director Lester Carlson says just take a look at the very strong general fund collections. Fiscal year 2021 ended $60 million higher than expected, and that strong performance continues, he says, in fiscal 2022, with more than $35 million over projections in the first quarter ending in December. If that's not proof enough, he says, they checked revenue collections for January, and it's $11 million over projections, so now they're $47 million ahead so far in FY 2022.
There was some concerns about the cessation of KUA and what that would do. I understand there might be still some thoughts that without PUA we're doomed, but we're not seeing that. The penchant for people to say that residents are going to spend less isn't showing up in tax collections, and it's not showing up in the grocery store, and it's not showing up at Island Girl Coffee.
Senators we've spoken to, though, remain skeptical. They aren't convinced that the economy can ride high when tourism, the main pillar of our two-pillar economy, can plunge with little sign of an immediate resurgence.
We're in the middle of Cope North. There's 2,500 troops. We've been, we have a plethora of military construction contracts going on. We've got the big development, in Tamuning, the Don Quixote. I see construction all over. And one of the things that people really need to understand is that construction drives the local economy.
Government line agencies must submit their individual budgets by mid-March. Then the budget hearing process will begin. Carlson and the administration are standing pat on their numbers.
I'm very, very comfortable with what it is that we've been trying to say. And I think if you look at what the governor has blessed and what Edward Byrne and I have tried to get the legislature to, adopt, I think our numbers have been and will continue to be born with more support behind them.
The legislature is required to submit a budget plan to the governor by the end of August. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Meanwhile, according to the Budget Bureau, the governor still has more than $400 million in unspent American Rescue Plan money.
That was by design, Nestor. These funds are available to December of 2024. This is not supposed to be something that is just used without regard for future growth needs. And a lot of the funding that you see that hasn't been touched yet has a future design to it. Department of Public Works, for example, there is a lot of money in road paving, things that we haven't been able to do much of in the last few years because of budgetary constraints.
We asked Carlson, is the administration might also use some of the remaining ARP funds for additional direct relief programs for cash-strapped residents?
I think people tend to forget how much of the CARES Act and the ARP money has gone directly either to residents or to businesses. So, we're at a situation where I really believe that people need to stop and think about what it is that she's provided to the legislature and the breadth of the programs that are being, supported.
Carlson said that money is not designated to be used for agency budget shortfalls. Governor Lulian Guerrero's recent announcement of an across-the-board pay raise for law enforcement personnel has sparked a renewed call for a government-wide compensation study. Appropriations Chairman Joe San Agustin wrote to the governor to remind her that current budget law authorizes a study of all GovGuam positions. He said it will provide senators with the tools necessary to understand the scope and levels of the appropriations required to ensure parity across the government. He said he will also look forward to providing additional support to our hardworking government personnel. Well, we got some private sector reaction. Phil Leddy is the new executive director of Action PAC, the political action committee backed by every major local business association.
But the truth of the matter is a lot of our frontliners or our public sector, the police officers and the medics and whatnot, they are deserving of pay raises. But at the same token, we need to look at it from both sides of the spectrum. If we are going to, as a government, be able to afford the pay raises for these public employees, we also got to think what's financial, I don't want to call it burden, but what financial weight are we putting on businesses by also forcing them to increase minimum wages?
San Augustine's letter also points out that the last government-wide compensation plan, known as the HASTE study, was implemented in 2010, but was suspended the next year due to fiscal constraints. A long-awaited shipment of test kits has finally arrived. With more, here's Daniel Perez.
According to Public Health COVID-19 Incident Commander Fernando Esteves, Guam currently has 15,631 test kits, with another 8,500 PCR test kits that arrived today. With more test kits on the way, Public Health looks to reevaluate their testing strategy.
The future really is going to be more towards home testing. So we're looking at some initiatives to fill in the gaps for the test kits that are provided to the community. Because as we've done when we were very judicious with our testing strategy, when we were limited in supplies, is we were focusing on the high-risk individuals. Now, for all of those, everyone else who want to get tested for other reasons, if we have the supplies, absolutely, we want to open it back up to them. We also want to find other methods and ways to provide them testing without having to come to our community testing sites.
Even if they turn to home testing for most, Esteves says Public Health still needs to catch those cases that are high risk. Public Health is still looking at how effective this will be, as it all depends on the supply and ability to provide rapid tests and the ability to provide other tests such as the PCR.
When we have enough rapid tests that we can push out to the clinics, and when we have enough PCRs that we can have presently. So assuming that all of the testing supplies come in, then based on the projections that we have, we'll be looking to open that back up as well. Maybe when the second order comes in, then we'll revisit and we'll make the determination at that point. But I won't do it unless the supply is there.
Public Health anticipates an additional 25,000 rapid tests to arrive this week.
Meanwhile, the CNMI is essentially reopening its borders after lifting its on-arrival COVID-19 testing requirements. Tomas Manglutnia has the details.
The CNMI has opened its borders for the fully vaccinated, no longer requiring COVID-19 testing upon arrival. CHCC spokesperson Gil Lefoyfoy.
The data that we're seeing here in the CNMI is that we're identifying cases in the community more than we identify cases from travel.
However, all passengers still need to upload proof of vaccination and complete a health declaration form before boarding, which also asks for secondary verification of vaccination if you received your shots outside of the CNMI. If you are unvaccinated, you are required to quarantine at home for at least 5 days and test on day 5. If fully vaccinated travelers want to get tested on day 5, they can go to a community-based testing site. Travelers to Rota and Tinian can schedule their test at the health centers on island.
Surveillance of COVID-19 at the border isn't the best predictor of the burden here to our healthcare system. So we're shifting the focus on medically significant community infections.
The shift comes after the CNMI reached a 99% vaccination rate, with half of those who are fully vaccinated also boosted. Tomas Manglutnia for KUAM News.
For more news, check out KUAM.com. I'm Hannah Devonza. We'll see you tonight on Primetime.
This news update is brought to you by Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
They love the island. They love the the climate, of course, the warm weather, but just the people, the culture. They just did have no interest in moving back to the States. We tried to convince them as they got older to relocate, be closer to family, and that was home.
Bonnie Toogood speaks about her parents, David and Barbara Zimmerman, who made Guam their home in 1978. Toogood, along with their mother, purchased the Hagana Pet Store in 1992 from its original owners.
We've had animals our entire life. We're definitely, I'd say, animal lovers. And so, between household pets, she had horses growing up. She lived on a farm when she was little, and that translated to us kids, I think. And so the opportunity arose, and and we did it.
From pet photos with Santa or the Easter Bunny, or walking through the doors and being welcomed by cute puppy faces, there was so much that made Feathers and Fins unique. But it was the familial atmosphere that truly made it special. Whether it was David sitting outside of the shop greeting customers, or Barbara and the dedicated employees ready to help, some of which worked at the store for over 20 years, each of them creating lasting bonds with Barbara. Marie Laniog was one of those employees, having worked as a manager for 23 years.
She's just incredible. If you met her, you had to love her. She just made a difference in your life. She made you enjoy your pets. It was, I don't know, she really liked customers, and that was like always her priority.
And it wasn't just the people she met at Feathers and Fins. Prior to the pet store, Barbara was a swimming coach for teams on Naval Station and NICTAMS. She was also very involved with the GNOC and South Pacific Games in the late 70s and 80s when it came to the sport. And although she knew her mother had made a lasting impression on many, Too Good didn't realize just how much until the pet store closed its doors on December 31st of last year.
Customers were writing, notes to her in a book that the employees provided, and people were commenting on our Instagram page. The number of people that would come in the store when I was there just trying to work things out, they'd come in and talk to me about how she affected them and their family, or how they shopped in the store as kids, and now they're adults bringing their kids. It really struck me that she really did have an impact.
And if there's something the community should know about Barbara?
She was supposed to be just my boss, but I loved her, and I know the employees loved her. And when I saw how many people's lives were touched by her, I knew, I'm glad I got to know her. I'm glad she took a chance on me.
How much she loved the island and the people, the customers in the store. That was her life. Truly, her heart was in it.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Jonah Goncharfris.
Do more, get more.
All right, thanks so much, Hannah. Let's take a look at island education matters now, as the Academy of Our Lady of Guam, downtown in the capital of Hagåtña, returned to face-to-face learning this week for half of the student population. We took a look.
It was back to in-person instruction for half of the Academy of Our Lady of Guam student population. Principal Iris Gaza breaks down the lesson plan.
So we started having students on campus today, and we decided for the next 2 weeks we would do our 50-50 hybrid learning modes. So right now we have freshmen and sophomores on campus, and our juniors and seniors are online. And then next week they will switch.
The home of the Cougars actually started the school year with a hybrid learning model and planned to bring all students back to campus in January, which they did. But then the Omicron surge sent students into remote learning.
In December, before we went on break, we were already gearing toward bringing everyone back in January for full inclusion, right? So when January hit, we decided we were going to bring everyone back. So for a good 2-3 weeks, everyone was on campus right after the break.
About 98% of employees and of 329 students are fully vaccinated, although not having a mandate requirement in place. In efforts to resume full in-person instruction, Gaza hopes resuming on-campus testing soon through the White House School Testing Initiative.
It has been very helpful and instrumental in helping keeping our students safe. When we came back both face-to-face, our testing obviously increased because now everyone was on campus, and it really affected our supply, because by the end of the third week, we had literally no supplies. But we're supposed to be getting supplies from a Biden initiative that provides testing to schools on the island. And so we're waiting for those to come in, which is also one of the reasons why we didn't go back 100% to face-to-face this week.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, Wahusi Isaiah Uggan.
All right, we do have a very touching story, as our island is, of course, mourning the loss of a beloved member of our community, business person, humanitarian Barbara Zimmerman, who you probably know as the former owner of Feathers and Fins, downtown in Hagåtña also. Jonah Goncharfris took a look as family and friends remember someone whose spirit was uniquely her own, but her love was distinctly Guamanian.
They love the island. They love the the climate, of course, the warm weather, but just the people, the culture. They just did have no interest in moving back to the States. We tried to convince them as they got older to relocate, be closer to family, and that was home.
Bonnie Toogood speaks about her parents, David and Barbara Zimmerman, who made Guam their home in 1978. Toogood, along with their mother, purchased the Hagana Pet Store in 1992 from its original owners.
We've had animals our entire life. We're definitely, I'd say, animal lovers. And so, between household pets, she had horses growing up. She lived on a farm when she was little, and that translated to us kids, I think. And so the opportunity arose, and we did it.
From pet photos with Santa or the Easter Bunny, or walking through the doors and being welcomed by cute puppy faces, there was so much that made Feathers and Fins unique. But it was the familial atmosphere that truly made it special. Whether it was David sitting outside of the shop greeting customers, or Barbara and the dedicated employees ready to help, some of which worked at the store for over 20 years, each of them creating lasting bonds with Barbara. Marie Laniog was one of those employees, having worked as a manager for 23 years.
She's just incredible. If you met her, you had to love her. She just made a difference in your life. She made you enjoy your pets. It was, she really liked customers. And it was always her priority.
And it wasn't just the people she met at Feathers and Fins. Prior to the pet store, Barbara was a swimming coach for teams on Naval Station in Nicktowns. She was also very involved with the GNOC and South Pacific Games in the late 70s and 80s when it came to the sport. And although she knew her mother had made a lasting impression on many, Toogood didn't realize just how much until the pet store closed its doors on December 31st of last year.
Customers were writing, notes to her in a book that the employees provided, and people were commenting on our Instagram page. The number of people that would come in the store when I was there just trying to work things out, they'd come in and talk to me about how she affected them and their family, or how they shopped in the store as kids, and now they're adults bringing their kids. It really struck me that she really did have an impact.
And if there's something the community should know about Barbara?
She was supposed to be just my boss, but I loved her, and I know the employees loved her. And when I saw how many people's lives were touched by her, I knew, I'm glad I got to know her. I'm glad she took a chance on me.
How much she loved the island and the people, the customers in the store. That was her life. Truly, her heart was in it.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Jonah Gancharfris.
All right, thank you, Joan. And our sympathies here from all of us at KUAM to Barbara Zimmerman and her families. Well, let's bring back in Hannah Devanzo onto the show now, as she hit the road yesterday probing the community's response to the rash of rather disturbing crimes that have befallen our tightly knit island community in the last few weeks.
2 death investigations underway by detectives in the past month alone. One in Jigo, another in Chalampago. A hit-and-run fatality over the weekend. Robberies and burglaries. Is GPD winning the war on crime?
Do you feel generally safe with the crime rates?
No.
Some island residents feeling unsafe have taken extra safety precautions.
For my home, I did add security cameras, and I do step outside just to take a look around, make sure the neighbors are also okay.
I got dogs, but even then the dogs, sometimes the dog's scared of them.
So where I live, I am actually part of the Dedido and the Barragata Neighborhood Watch, yeah.
GPD encourages the community to get involved with their respective Neighborhood Watch group chats, which can help deter crime. They're also urging residents to be proactive in reporting suspicious activities to GPD. If you'd like to join your village group chat, contact your local mayor's office.
And now let's go ahead and bring in Uncle Kin for a look at your local headlines in Guam's native tongue. Sponsored by our friends at First Hawaiian Bank, here is today's Chamorro News.
Buenas tardes to get some to be Chamorro ni KUAM News. Presenta ni Familia Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank. Guam Pacific Enterprises sa ma-file appeal gi Office of Public Auditor kontra Departamento ng Edukasyon para di hepa na filter siya. Yung kompanya sa ma-file dyan niya appeal na marinunsya protestan niya ni GDOE gi Enero. Uno na rason na ma-file yung appeal sa masasangan ng kompanya na itumugi dokumentong procurement gi GDOE sa timan architect at project experience niya for engineering man maestro. Ilig niya mas na adyo na senta sa FIDME na inepigin ni Departamento ng Edukasyon sa senmigay na tinanan suni para forman bid. Ginika pa na diya Guam Pacific Enterprises ma-file totalo na appeal para procurement lamas ng cafeteria siha. Mas asunto, iumata na reglamentong procurement gi Departamento ng Edukasyon sa si Senadora Sabina Perez. Ana anaw request ng Freedom of Information Act gato gi GDOE mamamay sa informasyon for exhibition maintenance, air conditioners, and computers. Espesyalmente minalago niya sa todo informasyon por todo masusede na komunikasyon dyan nota siya gimiting niya. Este GDOE ma-receive request ng Perez sa mafatututsu para man respondo yung sigidas. Otro mas asunto, ma-schedule para pre-trial na konferensya gi Martes giminan West Maria Senson lung lugar ma-continue hearing para si Paul Santos Mafnas Jr. Iofisina niya na dadabagaw sa makonfirma ay matsotsogin na negosyo get si plea agreement para si Mafnas sa este familia ni biktima sa man notifika sa man ma-informa. Ma-indak si Mafnas gi Abril 2019 nasakan. Ano masakin na kidnap sa rape on dishonest na pagkampalawan ano mamumakat gwati gi sa bus station gi sa tamuning. Repeat offender si Mafnas. Gimadyo na mes, 1999 nasakan, masintensya para 27 anos gi ipreso, anya kidnap sa rape 4 na manubin sita siha. Maparol taftap si Mafnas, gi 2018 nasakan. Mas artikulo, masonni parehas papanta sa Sanganion Palawan na paraw puno, pwede sinakengwengwi todi beneficyon niya dyan dirison niya, gininifinay taytatan niya. Gidya 6 ki Febrero, maresiba ni polisiya complain, ginin Palawan, na naspapanta giyas Roy Rano Asik, entry inagang gitelefon dyan mensahin ni text. Makonni giza dededo si Asik gidispues, ane makwestiyon niya admiti ane masaw kontra Palawan. Según dokumento ni Kotia, fanuit si Asik ki polisiya ay mensahe gitelefon niya, niya na naugi Palawan, zay like niya gwihi, magahit tao, tsumutsa pa zo ice, gigiminzo, zantisipa zo, lumalalifa zo na debi para puno aw. Samigay na nasaki si Asik afafana, podesti, za sumaunay manespanta, zan manat burota. Yutu manasunto gifinut sa moro para pago na Merkulis gani KUAM News, sanitary permit para dos na sagan sumot sa gizatamuning sa mamasuspende ani marikonosi ni Itato Departamento sa Salud Publiko. Mamaresponde Inspector siya para complain gi dia 24 gi Enero ani maripara na San Miguel Tradition Salud gi Imperial Gardens ani Mango na sagan sumot so. Todi dos na lugar sa manafan mutta por naplata. Sa todi dos na permit niya sa masuspende por infestasyon kukuratsa. Para Guam News Network, Guausikin Conception. Yasunto gifinut sa moro sa presenta sa ninafatto ni Familiang Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Got a question about your finances? You've come to the right place. Bring all your accounts together, even those that aren't with us, and see the big picture, right down to the smallest detail. Unlock powerful tools like Insights and Money Map that help you save time and take control of your finances. When you connect accounts with the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app, it all starts with yes.
Hey, good morning. This is our first look at news. Well worth the trouble. It did have a little bit of technical difficulty. Good morning on Facebook Live on The Breeze. We got Speaker Teresa Lahi on the way. But first, I want to share with you this interview that Sabrina and I did with JMI Edison's John Elau. Relative to, well, I'm pretty sure if you've been watching the news, relative to the Contractors Licensing Board and the audit that the public auditor, BJ Cruz, had come out with. This is the help a bro out thing. Okay, and it's John Elau, JMI Edison. Good morning.
All right, welcome back. We have been covering this story since its inception, and boy, has it taken some twists and turns. We're talking about a curious case of the Office of the Public Auditor, the Contractors Licensing Board, and JMI Edison, and we have really gone in with the public auditor, BJ Cruz. We had a very lengthy interview, which prompted a response and a statement from JMI Edison. And so we actually have John Elau in the KUAM News Link, a Zoom room. Really looking forward to getting his side of this very juicy story. John, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris, and good morning, Bree. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I guess let's just start with just your overall response to everything that's transpired. Is this really a case of a bro helping out another bro?
Well, bro and sis, what just to give a little bit more background on this is that we initially inquired GIAA and we FOIA'd our competitors' bid documents, and they're supposed to provide us all the procurement records, and they could withhold proprietary information like pricing or formulas. But GIAA was not supposed to withhold the licenses, business license or contractor's license. So when we FOIA'd GIAA back in September, they didn't give us any of that. So we couldn't immediately launch a protest. So we had to go to CLB, and we asked CLB, was Menzies or ASIC licensed back in September 13? And CLB responded back to us in September 17 that they weren't licensed. So we had that on email. So in November, Menzies met with CLB, but prior to that, we launched a complaint officially with CLB to investigate Menzies because they were doing contractors' work at GIAA for the past 5 years without having a contractor's license. So we did that officially after we found out. So that's the part maybe that the OPA might have overlooked, that we've been complaining, and we made official complaint back in September. And that's where a lot of people had just assumed that we were rushing the letter in December, but CLB actually said that in September that they weren't licensed.
Right. So I understand what you're saying about running this complaint, this investigation, while at the same time filing your complaint with the OPA. But there was something that the OPA said yesterday, that the board, the CLB board hadn't met, they hadn't had a quorum since September, and hence there was no discussion in any of the meetings or the copy of the meetings that he received that this entire issue of Menzies was ever investigated. And so him having said that, it calls into question in his mind this the findings of fact that was signed off by Mr. Orsini.
Yes, the findings of fact were signed by Buddy in December. However, CLB did issue another finding of facts at another OPA case in November, and very similar case. So as a matter of fact, that's where we got the format from. That's where my brother got the format from, was from CLB's letter that was submitted to the OPA for another case before us. And the other area where we disagree with the OPA is the part that, as per GCA 70109, a citation is issued by the CLB investigators. It's not the board. See, it's only after the board. It's very similar to like a traffic ticket. So, when you get a traffic ticket by a police, you get issued a citation, right? And then if you want to contest it, then that's when you go to the court and contest it. So that's what would happen here at the CLB is they get a citation that they're not licensed, and then they can go to the CLB board, and the CLB board will decide. But to issue a citation, as per GCA 70109, the investigator of CLB can do that on his or her own.
So after you filed your complaint with the CLB, did they conduct an investigation, and did you receive the findings of that investigation, which you presented to the OPA?
So the Menzies met with, because we were the complainant in September, right, to CLB. So CLB had to inform us when they would meet with Menzies. So they met with Menzies once or twice in November, and then so they did an investigation after that, and that's where the letter came out of. So on the two findings, the first finding was really, CLB stating that Menzies did not have a license. The second finding was that the work at GIAA required a contractor's license. And that's all the letter, that's the content of what the CLB letter had, was just those two findings. There wasn't any manipulation of any other thing. It's just, those are pretty straightforward and factual.
So you have the copies of those letters?
Yes, I just sent you also a copy of the CLB letter that they wrote in November for another case, which is very similar to our letter, our formatted letter.
John, I asked the public auditor this question. It kind of seems like there's, or maybe it just seems that way. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like there are two issues going on here. One is the issue of JMI Edison trying to say, hey, they don't have a contractor's license or a business license or the specific special license that I guess they're supposed to have, right, to be doing a business on Guam. And then there's the whole bro issue where the public auditor had said that it was troubling that your company had such easy access to the contractor's licensing board via Sonny, Buddy, Orsini. So in your mind, are these two separate issues? Because in some ways I could maybe understand why an audience member would think that you're bringing up the fact that they don't have a license to kind of deflect from whatever actions you may have taken in the emails that the public auditor talked about.
Yeah, unfortunately, it just became intertwined because of the auditors, the OPA's ruling. But really, if you go back since day one in September, when we FOIA GIA, we communicate with the CLB, the staffer gave us the information that they weren't licensed. So, you just got to go back from the beginning rather than start at December. And that's when, I wish, the auditor should have conducted a full hearing so that way he can call us all stakeholders in, people from Menzies, me, GIA, and get the whole story, because all the opposing counsels would have asked us all these questions. And so the OPA would have been more informed with all of us testifying in sworn testimony.
The OPA did kind of take issue with your first release that said he was manipulated, and he was very defensive about that he's not easily manipulated. What can you kind of explain what you meant by that comment?
Well, to us, we're coming from the perception that, from the background that, these are the facts. Our competitor is not licensed. They've been doing this contract for more than 5 years, and this is a renewal contract, and GIA chose to still continue with the current contractor that's unlicensed. Now, what's the point of anybody in Guam getting a contractor's license, if the OPA is not going to help enforce that, which the CLB is trying to do?
John, did go ahead, Bree.
Oh, no, I was going to say I do have a copy. Thanks for sending that over, of the December 22nd findings and decisions from Buddy. Now, this was the letter that was requested in your email to him?
Yes. Okay. And, when my brother sent that, it was really up to CLB to modify it or change it, or not even sign it. And just ignore it. But these are pretty straightforward facts, and we believe it's true. And if you look at the format also, but what they wrote in November is very similar.
Right. But what the OPA was saying is that in order for this findings and decisions to be issued, it had to be approved by 4 members of the contractor's licensing board, and the contractor's licensing board hadn't had a quorum since September last year. So again, go back to one of my questions regarding when you filed this complaint, asking for this investigation. Did you ever receive the findings to JMI prior to this letter being issued and signed by Sonny?
No. So this was essentially their response based on their investigation. I suppose we could FOIA it, whatever their investigation is, but this is their official response. So, and really, this citation does not need board approval. That's based on GCA.
So is this a citation that we're talking about, John, or is it a findings of fact?
It's a findings of fact and a citation. Now, if Menzies wants to argue against that, then they can request for a hearing. Then that's when the board will have to meet and then meet up with all stakeholders.
John, have you guys had any type of business relationship with Menzies over the last few years as a subcontractor?
As far as I recall, no. But we were the company that installed this baggage handling system 5-6 years ago.
Was that with Menzies on a subcontract?
No, it was Siemens that won the bid, and Siemens hired my company to install it.
Do you know if Siemens had a business license or
Siemens? Siemens did not have to because they didn't. As far as a contractor's license, Siemens did not have to have a contractor's license because but it was Siemens subcontractor that needed a contractor's license.
And so,
if Menzies has held this contract for the past 5-6 years, and this particular one is a contract renewal, did they have a subcontractor in the previous contract?
As far as I know, they didn't. So they did this as Menzies. They did the maintenance as Menzies.
And they didn't have a contract even back then when they were doing the work.
Contractor's license. They didn't have a contractor's license even back then. Yes. So it's either Menzies or ASIG.
And this is the first that anyone's raised the issue?
Yes. And we're just surprised that GIA did not give us the procurement records in the first place. Otherwise, this whole CLB question would not have been too much of an issue, where we had to get an answer on the OPA's deadline on December 27th.
John, again, you guys don't feel like you did anything unethical or improper when you reached out to Buddy Orsini with the bro email?
In hindsight, the pronoun might have been poorly chosen, but there's nothing illegal with the word bro. There is something illegal when a contractor working for the government of Guam, GIAA, continues to operate as a contractor without a contractor's license.
So what do you think is the remedy for that?
Well, we don't have a choice now. We just got to go to the court and wait for the court system to just take us on.
Are you disappointed with the public auditor? I mean, I know that in your second release you had, it's obvious he is a jurist. He's also a former judge. A former speaker of the Guam legislature. So, there is that assumption that he kind of knows what he's doing, right? And you guys, through your releases, have been pretty critical of his performance as a public auditor. From the he was manipulated statement to also this second release where you talk about you guys requested the hearing and he refused to let you state your side. So, how disappointing has this thing kind of been for you guys as far as it goes in dealing with the OPA?
Oh, it's disappointing in two ways. Not only are we fighting, spending money with our lawyers on the OPA, but now we got to spend more money when we go to the court system. Whereas if it stayed in the OPA and if we had a full hearing, then all the stakeholders would have been sworn in and the OPA would have learned more about the history from September, not just basing his decision on December and solely on the word bro, which is not illegal.
So do you think they should just throw this whole thing out and just start over from the beginning?
No, and this is one of those, I think, important cases for the Guam contractors, for this to play out in court, and also a warning to the off-island vendors that, you shouldn't just do business in Guam and expect to get away with just a business license. You need to comply with Guam's laws and regulations. And sometimes, or most of the time, you will need a contractor's license.
Are you aware whether or not Menzies, since they were ranked the highest offer, has already applied and has received a contractor's license? I mean, time has passed.
Yes, as far as I know, they haven't, but they would, they would probably go through certain challenges if they do, because they have been operating without a contractor's license for more than 5 years, and that's what I'm sure the board will take that on too. I'm sorry.
Are you aware if there's a fine or a penalty for that, or?
There is, just like pretty much like the Marble case. The CLB board can fine. Remember on the Marble case, can fine 50% of the contract. So this would go in line with similar to the Marble case, where the CLB can do as much as 50% fine from the start of the contract, which is 5 years ago.
And who would have to pay that, the contractor or the airport, for allowing this to persist?
I don't know.
When do you plan on filing the complaint, the lawsuit?
Very soon. I think the deadline is within 2 weeks.
John, what's your message to other businesses out there? Because we've seen many procurement issues, not just being settled at the OPA. I mean, people have a lot of questions about a lot of procurements that have been done during this pandemic. So, just given your experience with this whole debacle, what would you say to other businesses out there who are trying to bid on GovGuam contracts?
Well, it's really not that difficult. The challenge is really just making sure that they start from the get-go with the right process, and just make sure everybody is licensed, because this is a case and we have a case right before us. So just make sure they're properly licensed whenever they're working for doing contractual job for the government of Guam.
Thank you, John. Bree, did you have anything else?
No, thanks, John.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time.
Bye.
All right, there you go, Johnny. A little bit more on the whole issue with the public auditor's audit and the contractor's licensing board. Of course, this whole issue prompted the resignation of Cecil Buddy Orsini. He was replaced by Linda Ibanez, who was the deputy director, I believe, of DPW. We're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back with Speaker Teresa Lahi next, right here on The Link, which is proudly brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Good morning.
We want to see your football fan love in time for Valentine's Day and the big game on February 14th. KUAM News and KUAM Digital are rounding up and showcasing football lovers all over the island every day before the big game, and giving one lucky fan and their loved ones the chance to win the ultimate game day Valentine's Bash at home. All you got to do is send an email to promotions@KUAM.com with the subject Love and Football, or tag and send a DM to the KUAM News page on Instagram. Make sure to include your name and contact info and your Love and Football story. Each and every submission will be entered to win a Game Day Love Fest at their home on Valentine's Day, including a brand new 65-inch 4K TV from Buddy's Home Furnishings, party platters from participating restaurants delivered by Uno Go, beverages and swag from Heineken and Stoli, sweet treats, roses for your loved ones, and much more. One lucky winner will be announced on the air on February 11th. Some conditions apply. Winner must be a resident of Guam, must be 21 years or older, and must be available to be featured in a live shot from their home on Game Day, Monday, February 14th.
See KUAM.com for complete rules and regulations. Love and Football is presented by Uno Go and Buddy's Home Furnishings. Let us show you why Buddy's is better. Jamaican Grill, Yaman, together we can. Heaven Sent, the essence of all things beautiful. The Bottle Shack, Heineken and Stoli, enjoy responsibly. And CS Cafe.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage, with generations of Filipinos calling Guam home. KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutters, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. I'm sorry, bro. Can you just go over because we shortened the show.
Yes,
we're out at 9, but to make up for it, we're putting the show out there in
We're
more
on
ways.
triple the number of screens now because, guys, not only are we live on Facebook Live each and every day for this show, for KUAM News Primetime at 6 p.m., and a couple other things that we got coming up. Spoiler alert. But we're also live on YouTube each and every day and on Twitter. So if you are more comfortable on those platforms, if you find the conversations to be more your jam, then just join us on YouTube or Facebook. You know, if your device is supported, if you've got if you got a smart TV, a gaming console, and that fits your lifestyle, you can hang out with us that way. But the bro thing, there are some comments being said. People are like, okay, people speculating maybe this might actually change how communication between the private sector, public sector, inter-public sector has been. And, you know, we've seen this before because remember, we had Lester Carlson and Senator Joseph Augustine on, I want to say maybe about a year. Well, it was the last budget cycle. And, and they were calling each other like, hey, Prim, I got the thing of Prim. And, you know, I mean, it's cordial and it's colloquial. But, but Johnny, Eli even said, he goes, well, maybe the choice of the use of the word bro maybe was not the smartest thing to do, but he goes,
what did he say?
But
he
not
said,
illegal.
He said bronoun.
Bronoun.
Right. 7:37. It's Wednesday, February 9th. We got your testing and vax info coming up with Jay, but we'll go ahead and head into the KUAM News Zoom room where the Speaker of the 36th Guam Legislature, Speaker Therese Terlahi, is standing by. Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good morning. Good morning, KUAM, Chris, and Jason, and Sabrina, and good morning, Guam.
Thanks for joining us, Madam Speaker. We're just going to get right into it, and I guess we'll start with this interview Nestor Lecanto did with the Director of the Bureau of Budget and Management Resources, Mr. Lester Carlson. And I'll just read you the lead to this interview. Lester Carlson paints a bright picture about next fiscal year's budget. He spoke with KUAM's Nestor Lecanto about why he is so optimistic despite the continued tourism slump and the end of most federal pandemic assistance programs. I guess so. Just your reaction on Lester Carlson's optimism, which seems to hold year to year.
Well, yes, I think we have. Well, they're projecting $72 million more in general fund revenues than this year, right? And a little bit less in special fund revenues, but that's similar to what they predicted for this year, that we receive more general fund revenue than what we actually appropriated. So I think the legislature is doing a very good job at holding down the spending of the government and, being pretty conservative about that. I had actually advocated that we adopt a higher revenue projection this year for the first time. And I wanted all of that additional $40 million actually to go towards income tax refunds. Because although, I have to give them credit, they have been paying refunds, they're still refunds that are outstanding. And I'd like to clear those off. I can't see why we can't just clear all of them off. Some of them, need additional work, but to clear those off, I want to, while we go forward, not, have any risk that refunds will not be paid. So if they're projecting 72 million, of course, we're going to go through the details of that and how they actually got that number. But it is true that this fiscal year, it looks like we are bringing in more than what was predicted. And so I think it's the legislature's challenge to try to, get close to the number that we are actually going to bring in and to put that into an appropriation or lock it up somehow so that it doesn't just get spent later as excess revenues in whatever manner, at somebody else's discretion. Yeah. And so spending discretion should be at the legislature. And so, I think we need to really exercise that as closely as possible, which is why I tried to tie up any money that might come in above what we projected last year or this year to go into refunds. And I'd like to do the same next year as well. I still want to ensure that our refunds are clearly paid. And if you look at their projection for refunds in the budget bill that they submitted for 2023 for the upcoming, budget process, it's still, I think, not enough. So we projected such a low amount for this year's refunds, and I really want to get an accounting on that when we get into budget. And what they are projecting for next year is it's only 90 million. We traditionally put aside 125 million and been told that that's not enough. So I think we need to really look closely at that. And that we haven't received yet word from the Department of Revenue and Taxation or the director as to what her negotiations are with the IRS regarding the earned income tax refunds. So all of that is still in play. And that will affect 2022, our current fiscal year, and next fiscal year as well.
Madam Speaker, can you explain, because I'm not so good with the whole budget financial thing. I mean, that's an issue that we pretty much leave to Nestor on the news team. But, when you look around and you listen to some of your colleagues talking about businesses are hurting and, there's people out of work. And when I drive around, I don't see, and again, I'm just a layman, I don't see an island that is, whatever, $70 million over what we're projecting. So I just don't know where's the money coming from, Madam Speaker. Can you help us understand?
I'm not an expert in that, but what they've told us is that this money is coming from, of course, federal aid. Federal aid is bringing in money, the equivalent of our budget amount, right? And if they spend that and if they give it to corporations and they give it to individuals and they are spending that there are some companies that are, getting that much in gross receipts or getting that much able to pay employees. Not all companies. So you're absolutely right. It's still very, very clear that there are businesses that are shuttered, that there are businesses that are not operating. Some of these businesses might still be receiving the federal aid, however, right, in the packages that have been distributed. There's been quite a lot of money that's been distributed to different businesses on Guam. I don't think all of them have really received it, but a lot of them have received a lot.
Madam Speaker, the administration submitted the most recent American Rescue Plan spend report, which I would try to look at it yesterday. But I feel the bottom line, one of the main takeaways, at least for me, was that there's still some over $400 million in ARP money that has not been spent. But could we maybe start with your reaction to the actual ARP spend plan reporting? Are you satisfied with the information that's being provided, or you feel like you guys really need more info?
Well, obviously, it's just broad categories. It doesn't give you the specifics of what they've actually spent it for. For example, this is a very good example, I think, and that's the public health. So they say they're giving public health, millions of dollars in ARP. But they don't tell you what that's for. Is that to make up for the budget shortfall, that they said they didn't want us to appropriate because they were going to get it from ARP? Where exactly is public health putting that? I've actually written letters to public health, messaged them in different ways, asked for exactly where's that ARP money. We've gotten no response. And so I don't think that's appropriate, especially if we can't get the responses from these agencies right away as to what did they spend it on. And obviously, we can FOIA all that, but I can't understand why we would have to go through all that process just to get this information. So I'm trying to think of another way that we're going to get this done without having to beg for the information that I think the public is absolutely entitled to, right? Where is this money going? We want to make sure, and I think it's fair that the public has a say in saying, well, that went to a good use or it didn't, right? And when public health comes back in and wants to tell us, they need more money or less money, of course, we're going to ask them to account for this ARP money. So I just don't understand the delay in that. So it causes the delay. And I'm trying to compare it this morning. I'm going to compare it to the reports that the governments and all states have to submit to the federal government. And I think those are kind of general as well. But for our purposes, again, I think this is information that the public is entitled to. So yes, the more detail, the better. And I think it would be beneficial to everybody involved to just show the detail as opposed to, going through the back and forth of it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we know the broad categories and we can see how they're changed and we can see how they haven't allocated all the money yet.
Yeah, and so if you kind of look at this report, it's on the legislature's website. I'm going to send Jason over the link to put it in the comments, but it'll say stuff like, for example, Bureau of Women's Affairs, right? It'll say allocated 129,000 spent, 2,000. But what I'm seeing is a lot of these agencies that have gotten money haven't even spent it yet, right?
That's correct. And some of the agencies that we asked would receive some of this ARP money also have not, right? We had suggested that we need to address the water and sewer issues that are plaguing a lot of the lands on Guam where people are actually living, right? They still don't have this type of infrastructure, but the living has expanded, to these areas. And those include the Chamorro-Lantras areas and other areas. And I just had I listened in on their point in time count debrief yesterday for the Homeless Coalition. And they remind us again that there are these areas where people are living in Guam in poverty. They're living in substandard conditions. And a lot of that stems from the lack of water, the lack of sewer, and unacceptable, right? And so they're looking to the government, and I totally agree that where we have people living and we expect them to live, and we want to grow businesses to support these communities, that we've got to bring in that infrastructure. So we have an opportunity to do that with the ARP funds. We have an opportunity to do that with the infrastructure fund, and so we are still urging that be done. And so, I had a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor. He mentioned that they were going to follow through with GWA's proposal to put some money into a couple of these areas, Atacao, I think, and maybe Zero Down. So those are two, right? And so we're just looking for some others with this funding that's still available.
And so that's, I know that in your submission to the governor's office about how you and your colleagues wanted to spend ARP, there was, I want to say it was $25 million that you had said wanted to set aside for infrastructure improvements and surveying lots and all that stuff for the Chamorro-Lantras in your meeting with
That's correct, $25 million. Yes,
right.
We had asked for that. Yes.
So in your meeting with Lieutenant Governor, how much was earmarked, and what did you find out about the other monies that you wanted for the other things that need to be done at CLTC?
Well, there is no money currently allocated for CLT properties, except there's that through that infrastructure, they might money going to GWA. I think GWA is leaning towards putting it towards, if I remember correctly, Zero Down and an area near Atacao. And so there are Chamorro-Lantras properties near that Atacao area, but there's also other properties. So that would be a good investment, I think. But I think that's separate. That's infrastructure funds. So
Right.
We should still have the big tracts of land. And I had Chamorro Land Trust prioritize these tracts, right? Which ones can we get residences in and we can get more if we can get sewer, right? So when you put sewer in, you can cut the lots smaller and because you don't have to account for a septic tank. So that's what I would like to do. Cut the lots smaller, put in more housing or allow an opportunity for more housing and get these people into homes, right? Instead of, we're still dealing with a lot of homelessness, a lot of shifts that have happened because of this pandemic. And I think that's one way to make up for it.
Speaker, I know that we're talking about infrastructure out to Chamorro Land Trust properties, but one of the conversations that we had this week with, man, I forget which mayor it was, but it was about abandoned vehicles. Abandoned vehicles on Chamorro Land Trust property. How do we kind of resolve this issue once and for all?
Part of it, I think, EPA is the enforcer of those things. And so that's one, arm of it. The other arm of it, of course, is just that the properties are not gated. Or, there's no fences. So it's just like any government of Guam property. It's not specific to Chamorro Land Trust. It's just that Chamorro Land Trust owns the properties that we can see, right? But it's the same with any private property that you can go and dump without being seen, or any other government property that you can go and dump without being caught, right? We see that on the road to Tagacheng. We see that everywhere. It's anywhere people can go and drive and conveniently dump without being caught is really the problem. It's an island-wide problem. I don't think it's specific to Chamorro Land Trust. It's just noticeable there because they have these huge tracts of land, and there are not people living on them right now. But I think Chamorro Land Trust has also, taken measures. They went through and cleared up, remember, Swamp Road and some other areas not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I think that they had agreed at that time to, watch. They're going to have to just report it more often to EPA. EPA tries to cite these people, but otherwise, the solution that they had proposed was to fence these properties. And that's an investment of money. I think that I would like not to spend if we don't have to, because putting up fences takes away money from putting in roads, bringing in the sewer and the water, or doing the surveying of these properties and actually giving them to someone so someone can be living in that property instead. And so that's the trade-off. But, of course, the other side of the coin was that the, administration is supposed to be working on another way to prevent dumping, and that was to require an island-wide trash pickup service, right? So if that gets put in promptly, we'll see how that resolves the issue.
But instead what we have is they build these roads out to these properties that maybe haven't been divvied up yet, and you end up with these roads to nowhere, like you said, where people can just drive off and dump stuff. I just had another land question. I know Bree's got some questions for you, but this is relative to Eagles Field. I believe the governor had popped up in another media saying that, the Admiral's not correct, that she was hearing that they were going to build the missile defense system possibly like next to the hospital, but we haven't been able to confirm that with her office we had the Admiral on the show and he said what he said, but have you heard anything else about this situation up there at Eagles Field?
I heard that interview with the governor where she said that she had met with MDA, which I'm assuming is the Missile Defense Authority or something. And that after that meeting, she was assured that this property would be taken off the list of excess lands. And that's very disturbing to me, I have to say. I feel so bad for the landowners that first they were bypassed in the process of how their excess lands, when returned, would be used, or whether they would be returned to the landowners or not. And now we have a whole other issue of, it seems like the governor has agreed that these lands would be removed from the excess lands list. That, that does not sit well with me. I feel like, if we let that go, we are really going backwards on what we have tried to do for years, and that is to point out the land that's not being used, the land that looks excess because it has not been used, and that should be returned to the government. And it also, goes back to the military's promise. This is the Department of Defense making a promise in 2010 that they would use less land in this buildup than prior, right? And that's why Congress, because DOD was not moving on the return of excess land, Congress put it into that NDAA law that a certain process of what the Department of Defense had to follow. And that is the governor requests and they respond to every single parcel as to whether it can be returned or not. And so they had already agreed that this is excess and it would be returned. So this whole change in position by both the admiral and the governor are really concerning for me, that the land was found excess and now all of a sudden it's not. And all of a sudden now only the parts that are available for the hospital are going to be released under a lease, not even outright returned. And what is the sense of that, right? If they're going to allow it to be used for a hospital for 50 years, is it excess to them or not? It seems excess, right? I mean, this just goes back to, I think the struggle that the landowners have been facing for 50 years or longer, right? Since the takings, and it's just not just. So I'm going to continue to work with these landowners. I think they should have a say in that, and I think that they should not give up. I think this is something that that we should be very united about, and I'm looking to the community to be united about this. It's they have 1/3 of the island available to them for use. And I just think this property can, and they've said they want to build a base all over Guam. That's another thing that, concerns me. But so I'm going to continue to discuss with the landowners, urging the governor to urge the Department of Defense to return the land as excess, to stick to their original promise.
We did have a couple comments. Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity to improve infrastructure for our people who are suffering the most. Let's do it. All us public servants must do what we can. So many in need. F. Glenn comments, Busta, let's get real. Eagles Field is not going to be the new hospital site. Bree, I know you had some questions. Good morning.
Yeah, Speaker. So Eagles Field actually was just one of other alternatives.
Sabrina, sorry, I can hardly hear you.
Oh.
Eagles Field, it was just one of other alternative sites. Do you recall what the other sites were?
They said generally there was one near Atacao. I don't know specifically where, but they keep saying Atacao. That's the second one. And the third one, of course, was the Oka Point. And then the current hospital site. Those are the only 4 that I'm aware of. If there are more, there may be more, but those are the 4 that I've heard them discussing in different meetings.
I see. Okay. I also wanted to follow up on the licensure for these new paramedics, these firefighters and other people that went through all of this training over at the Guam Fire Department. Do you have any update on that?
I don't have a recent update, but I know that I discussed this with the HPLO, I believe, and which is the Health Professional Licensing Office. And this is an issue that is on the EMS Commission's agenda, right? And it's also something, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember, but if I remember correctly, it's even the Lieutenant Governor had said that this is something that they are trying to resolve. And I know I've heard, just like you probably, that there are people who went through that and then they went off island to get their actual certification because they were frustrated that they couldn't get it here. But it was my understanding that they were going to resolve that. But no, I don't think it's been resolved to date.
Okay.
And I think this is something also that, we had discussed with GCC as well.
Mm-hmm. We haven't really heard a whole lot out of the Guam Memorial Hospital. Have you heard anything? Like, what's going on over there?
Well, what I've been concentrating on and what I've heard talked about recently is pretty much the medicine that is available to treat this Omicron strain, right? So the medicine that was available was distributed to GMH, GRMC, I think SDA, Guam Radiology. And so those clinics and hospitals were supposed to give these treatments, these IV treatments to patients that were at highest risk and who had tested positive. Public Health was also supposed to distribute these IVs themselves at the northern and the southern clinics. But my understanding is that they were not able to stand up either of those. So what Public Health did was set up a tent, or they used the blue tent that was outside of GMH. And that's a Public Health distribution center for the IVs, antibodies against the Omicron. So those are the IVs. They were a very limited basis, right? But then there were also pills that were distributed, of course, to the hospitals for patients, and they've been distributed to the pharmacies. And my understanding is that they haven't had many takers on those pills because the pills have a high, to be eligible for those pills, you can't be on any, pretty much any other medicine. You can't be at, it's the way they interact with other medicines, which a lot of our populations are on for heart disease or, diabetes and that type of thing. So they are not eligible. So unfortunately, we have a high risk population not able to use the pills, and they kind of need the IV, which is in very short supply. But so that's what we are following up with, and it looks like they're continuing, Public Health continuing to make orders for these antibody treatments, but it's a matter of waiting for the orders to come in and just continuing to place orders. But they seem on very short supply, which is very troublesome, of course. But and I think I've heard of some people who were rejected for the treatment, right, and said they're not eligible, they're not high risk enough, or something like that.
Yeah, and even just the concerns about the test kits. I mean, we were 8,000, and then thankfully we got a shipment yesterday. So.
Right. So we knew for a couple weeks ago that they were running low, that there were no orders that had been made. And so I think Public Health scrambled to make these orders, and they've now got a system, I hope. The way they described it to me, it seems like they've got a system that they are going to order from different suppliers. And so we should be able to receive regular shipments, and we will not have that threat of running low again. It doesn't make any sense if we're going to have that threat again. So hopefully when we get additional test kits in, they are going to, expand this testing. You saw the results yesterday. It's like 50% of those that came in to get tested or maybe 44% came in and they were tested positive. So of course we've limited the testing, but those who are being tested, it's still a high number, right? In the 400s, I think, in a day. Yeah.
Have you
so
heard?
It's still a high number of positive cases. I think that's still concerning for our hospitals.
Have you heard anything about the quarantine and isolation facilities? Because, when you look at that expenditure and allocation report for the ARP money, 21 million going to pay for quarantine and isolation facilities. I know we're trying to find out how much has actually been reimbursed, but there was that effort to consolidate the two facilities into, one.
Right, which I think they have.
They have?
I think so, yes.
So Bayview's now the quarantine and isolation facility?
Yes.
Oh, when did they do that?
Oh,
I believe when you were gone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's done. And I don't, the thing is they don't do much isolation. I think
they don't, actually, Speaker, they don't do much quarantine. Yeah.
What's that?
They don't do much quarantine. It's isolation.
They don't do much quarantine. It's primarily isolation now. These are for positive cases. Yeah. So yeah, it's not clear yet. And Sabrina, we've been asking since day one, right? How much of those quarantine facilities where we are using now ARP money are going to be reimbursed? We can't get a clear answer. And, I don't know why. I think they're still waiting to see whether they can get reimbursed. Maybe they don't know the answer, but we haven't received the answer. We've made that inquiry since we first saw that on the ARP expenditure reports that they're using that. Of course, we're looking for reimbursement for FEMA, or that's what my guess was, that quarantine and isolation would be covered by FEMA. And so if they're not, I'd like to know. And if they are, of course, I'd like to know, because that's $30 million now that we can allocate elsewhere. That would cover the infrastructure we're talking about.
Madam Speaker, have you heard any update at all about the financial management system?
The emergency procurement?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I haven't been tracking that. I'm assuming, it's been on every, I've seen it on different reports. Remember, I think that was under a CARES report. And
Yeah.
I don't remember, I'm sorry, but I don't think it was, if it was not completed when we went through the budget cycle. I know that was in July. So as of now, I'm not sure. I think they, said they issued an RFP. I don't know.
I think they might have. I'll find out. So you don't have any info on it?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I can follow up with Senator Perez, though.
Right,
She's the
yeah.
oversight of Department of Ed. So we're having a session coming up on February 18th. That's the end of the month. So our sessions are normally at the end of the month, right? We pick the last week of each month, and I kind of reserved that in advance with the senators. It's informal because I haven't made the call yet, but that's kind of the informal reservation, the last week of every month that we're going to have session. I try to give this to them in advance so that they can plan their traveling and everything else around those dates and feel a little confident that, they can schedule whatever they need, medical care and things around those dates. So our next, we should be having session on February 18th. Today, we're going to be having a Committee on Rules meeting. And in this meeting, the Committee on Rules meeting is where we set the agenda for the session. And so all the bills that are have been reported out of committee, those are available to be put on the session floor normally. And so at the Committee on Rules, we kind of narrowed that down to our wish list of bills that we are going to deal with during session. Of course, everything's ultimately up to the body and on the session floor voting to act on a bill or not. So the Committee on Rules has issued their agenda for today's meeting, and in that agenda, they list all the bills that have cleared the committee, or they've been reported out of individual committees. They've cleared the Committee on Rules. They should be posted up on the legislature's website for all the public to see. And so after today, we'll know which bills they intend to move during the session. There are a lot of bills. I'm looking at the list. Some of these have been reported out for a while. Some of these have been newly reported out, and these are the earned income tax, the bills that want to use the earned income tax reimbursement monies. And these bills, for me, I'm looking for the Director of Revenue and Taxation to confirm with us what her arrangement with IRS is. Are we going to be paid in advance for these earned income tax, money that must be credits that has to be paid out to the taxpayers, or are we going to be paid after the fact as reimbursements? And because I think that makes a big difference as to whether these monies are really available to us or they're not. If you remember the child tax credit, that was all put into a trust fund in advance, and the director could only use that money to pay out the child tax credits. And so if that's the same setup with the earned income, then this money might not be available for appropriation. So there's still, we're still going. Lately, I don't know if you've been watching, we've been having public hearings, and we're having a hard time getting, I think, the information that we absolutely need in order to make good policy. So we have hearings, we invite agencies to come in, but unfortunately, they're not always showing up. And for example, in these cases, we just don't have the answers. Revenue and Taxation says for the earned income tax credit, they don't know yet. They will know shortly, she says, but she doesn't know yet. And so, I don't know. For me, I'm just getting concerned that there are bills, they're quite complex. They are going to have significant impacts on the people of Guam. I would like the agencies who are also going to be significantly impacted or charged with enforcing some of these bills or laws that we are proposing to really be, attend and to tell us clearly, with as many facts as possible, what the impacts are and whether they are going to be able to enforce this. One of the examples was the hearing on the bill for the abandoned vehicles. The mayors were in there saying their side, which is, very clear. This is urgent. These are our impediments. But we had no one from the other agencies to come in and say why they weren't able to address, those concerns of the mayors promptly, or what is the status of getting an impound lot, or what is, DPW's limitations, GPD's limitations, the AG's interpretation, that type of thing.
So what's the difference, Madam Speaker? Because I remember just watching session, as recently as, 4+ years ago, and you would routinely see any bill that had something to do with agriculture, the agriculture people would come, or if it was a bill about crime, you would have the police department or the AG's office come and they'd give the statistics. So what's the difference between then and now? And it's not just what you're saying now. Earlier in this interview, you talk about you write public health, they don't even respond. So I don't understand we're looking at a Democratic majority in the legislature who can't seem to get the time of day from the Democratic governor in Adelut.
Well, I would say that it's inconsistent, right? So yes, sometimes they're very responsive. The agencies will be all in full force, sometimes not. And sometimes, we have to beg for the information as opposed to, we get it immediately, which I'm telling you, in the beginning of the term, I was so grateful. I thought that almost all the directors were very responsive and were very willing to give information straight up, facts, no rhetoric. And I can operate like that. But the inconsistency is really what's bothering me. And I'm considering going forward at least for my committee's hearings, issuing subpoenas, if I need to do that. It seems like an extreme measure for just the government agencies, right? And I feel like if directors can't make it, it's so easy for them to send staff. Yeah. It's these classified staff who have been working on these issues for years, in fact, right? And I'm sure they can answer the questions, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking out loud. It's getting not just frustrating, because frustrating is one thing, but really it's getting to me that we cannot be confident about the policy we're passing without that broad input. And that's the whole reason for open government. And I think we've done an excellent job of opening the government. It can always be more, but we've done a very good job. We've required every bill to have a hearing. But when these agencies don't show up or don't want to give input, then, it kind of defeats that purpose. So the public, of course, we want them to participate in their government, but I think that they should know from all across the government, and use the best resources. These agencies are getting resources, right? And they should, in turn, share their knowledge, their expertise with the public, so that everybody on Guam can be on the same page. And I feel like that's where a lot of the discord arises, is when we're operating from different facts or different interpretations or different beliefs as to whether something's workable or not, and that's based on who knows what sometimes. And I don't like to operate like that. I want everything out in front of us. I want, when senators vote, I want them to be voting informed, not ill-informed, not in the dark. I think that's very bad policymaking. And so I just think we have to do something different if we can't get the responses. And you've seen, sometimes we have a go around in the budgets as to, some of the language, semantics. Sometimes we pass laws and they say they're not going to follow them and we don't know why, right? Or they say they don't have to follow them because we didn't use the right word. Things like that. Very frustrating. And I feel like that's I don't know. So I feel like all around we could always do better with this open government, but I feel like we need to also, hold these agencies accountable as to, we need to all work together to get better policy, to find out what the impediments are. When I listened to this homeless coalition yesterday, we know poverty is a growing issue on Guam. It's been a big issue, but it's a growing one, which, because of all the conditions, it's growing. And the people, what's really alarming is people who have been doing, work with the homeless, doing the actual services, they are really shocked. And that should be a concern to all of us, right? That they are troubled, they're furious, I think, inside, but they are just some of the nicest people on Guam. So they don't say it like that, but I think they are frustrated with the response of the government, and that we have government working hard, yet we have to respond quicker. When there are children out there living in substandard conditions, when there are elderly. And one of the questions somebody raised yesterday during that debriefing was, we should have known, we as a community, we as a government, we should have known that people were living like this. So they go out there, they see it, they report it, they make a referral to all the agencies involved, but they're kind of, upset. And rightly so, that we should have known earlier than this. We can't wait for the one time per year counts to realize this information. So, we have to, that's, I don't know, for me here as a senator, that's what I find too. I spend a lot of my time following up with agencies to see whether they are really implementing what the law says, to find out what's their impediment, why are they not implementing what the law says, what is the delay, things like that. It takes a lot of patience, to just keep at it. And I feel like, I don't know, of course the pandemic has just exacerbated all of this because they've grown in duty. So, I got to give public health credit. Their duties have, tremendously grown because of the pandemic. So some of their regular work, may be delayed, but it can't be, unfortunately, because it's public health, right? It's like we can't afford any part of public health to be delayed. We need a whole system to get these services that are available out there. And we've had oversight hearings before, and this kind of is the conclusion that everybody has decided, yes, we need to get the clinics out into the communities where they are needed the most. People can't even come in for testing. They can't come in for vaccinations. They don't have transportation. This is the types of communities we're talking about. We need to get these clinics out to them to prevent the dead on arrivals, right? Yeah. We knew this a year ago because that was the proposal made during the last variant, right? Or the original. And so it's just that. It's like we can see with this Omicron that we are doing these things again, running short on test kits, ramping up our ordering skills and our ordering procedures so that they don't get held up in any other agency, things like that.
Ordering skills. Wow, Madam Speaker, thank you. We got to do the news, but yeah, it definitely sounds like there's a lot of stuff. No, but I just got to say that you guys have allowed this to happen. These directors not showing up, and it's now at the point where
I take exception to that we have allowed this to happen. We have a very clear role here in the legislative branch. We do policy and we do oversight. And I think I have done oversight after oversight without trying to bring public health in here every single day and impede their ability to do their job. We have to balance that as well. And so I'm just saying, no, everyone has to do their job. You know what I mean? Every single person in this government has to carry the weight because there are communities out here, and these are our communities who are suffering. And so No, I don't think anybody has allowed it to happen.
No,
I think,
Madam Speaker, I'm just talking about when these directors no-show at these hearings. It's happened so many times.
No.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm saying I'm looking for another method now.
Yeah.
If our invitations are not enough, then we will definitely
clearly,
have
I think the time for subpoenas passed, a while ago, because they just don't have any respect. I think it's about the respect of the job, that they have respect for the job. It's huge.
I agree. It's a respect for your job. It's a respect for the people of Guam, that do they deserve to hear from you or not? And I find it very frustrating that we can't get directors to answer directly for things, and that, I think we need to happen a lot more often. And I want to thank the directors that do respond quickly or, respond with, some of them are so thorough, right? And so I'm very grateful for that. But I just think it has to be consistent. And so I just hope we can all do that.
Well, let us know when you send your first subpoena, because I think that's definitely newsworthy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right. Everyone have a good day.
You
Sorry
too.
if I was going off.
No, hey, go off. Go off, Speaker. People are going off out here. They're just as frustrated, if not more frustrated than
Well,
you
I'm
are.
just saying, to end on a positive note, I try to take that frustration and, put it into something beneficial. Like if it needs a policy change, then we're going to make that policy change. If it just needs, the directors to be encouraged or something, I'm going to try to do that. But we really just need, so much of this is already outlined in law. It's outlined, everybody knows the goal, I would hope. And that we just have to really work together to get there. We have to remove all these impediments, or my agency doesn't handle that. Only theirs does, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It has to be coordinated.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much. And Sabrina, I'm glad to see you back. We really missed you. And again, condolences.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Therese Terlahi there. Go register to vote, guys. Yep, gec.guam.gov. Make sure you're mad when you do it. Go register to vote. You can do it totally online. You don't have to look at anybody in the face. Do it. If you want to look at people in the face, you can go to the GEC offices in Okatamuning. It's 821, Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. Let's go ahead and get into the news. Who's doing the news? Jason Solis is doing the news. Hold on, let me check my computer because...
hot in the city.
It is.
Hot in the studio this
How
morning.
many days is that without aircon?
You know the upside though. And let's
What is the upside, Jay?
let's do what
the
we
unintended
do on this
calorie
show.
loss.
Let's take a lemon and let's make lemonade, right?
Right.
Let's make some Korean barbecue, man. We could cook some Kalbi beef on
You probably
your
could
CPU
on a
this morning.
CPU fan.
Yeah.
Right. 821.
There's a silver lining to everything, hopefully.
Way to go. That's a way to positive think, Jay. Brought to you by Pacific Points. It is our 8 o'clock newscast right here on the link with Jason Solis from the KUAM News Team. Good morning, Jason.
All right, good morning, and thank you, everybody, for watching once again. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, remember, we're also on YouTube Live each and every day on this show, as well as Primetime, and some new stuff we're working on. Spoiler? Stay tuned for that. All right. Make sure to check that out. We're also live on Twitter. So Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, whichever platform suits you best, whichever conversations you're happier with, we got you covered. And thanks for you guys for your feedback. Of course, link updates are brought to you by our friends at Pacific Points, where you can do more, get more. Thank you to our friends at Pacific Points for always allowing us to bring you the link updates each and every day. And this morning, our island grieves once again as we have lost another member of our island family, as an 83-year-old man's death is the 299th COVID-19 related fatality since March 15th of last year, when the pandemic unofficially began on Guam. The man who was partially vaccinated was declared dead on arrival at the Guam Memorial Hospital on Monday. Yesterday, there were also 844 new COVID cases reported by Public Health, 113 of which came from the Department of Defense. Hospitalizations for people with COVID are at 46, 30 of them being at the Guam Memorial Hospital in Tamuning, 14 up in Dedido at GRMC, and 2 at Naval Hospital in Agana Heights. 7 Guamanians are on ventilators this morning. 7 people are in the ICU, with 3 people on ventilators. Nearly 5,900 people are in isolation this morning because of COVID-19. All right, let's go back to the newsroom now, where our Hannah Devanzo is standing by, and she has your morning link update.
Update is brought to you by Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Hafa Day, I'm Hannah Devanzo with your link update. In an interview with KUAM, JMI Edison continues to defend they did nothing wrong, and the OPA decision to dismiss their appeal related to an airport contract was based solely on the use of a word bro and not on the merits and the baggage of the winning contractor.
Instead of getting TMI, JMI says the OPA's decision only focused on the issue of BRO.
In hindsight, the pronoun might have been poorly chosen, but there's nothing illegal with the word bro. There is something illegal when a contractor working for the government of Guam, GIAA, continues to operate as a contractor without a contractor's license.
JMI specifically appealed GIAA's contract award to Menzies for a baggage handling system because the company didn't have a contractor's license. But it was an email from JMI to CLB Executive Director Cecil Orsini that the OPA took issue with, ultimately deciding this was a case of a bro just helping out another bro. JMI's John Elau, however, says the OPA focused on the pronoun instead of the actual letters submitted by Orsini, which he maintains does not need action by the CLB board because it's a citation.
So on the two findings, the first finding was really, CLB stating that Menzies did not have a license. The second finding was that the work at GIAA required a contractor's license. And that's all the letter, that's the content of what the CLB letter had, was just those two findings. There wasn't any manipulation of any other thing. It's just, those are pretty straightforward.
According to JMI, the facts were lost in all the turbulence.
It just became intertwined because of the auditors, the OPA's ruling. But really, if you go back since day one in September, when we FOIA GIA, we communicated with the CLB, the staffer gave us the information that they weren't licensed. So, you just got to go back from the beginning rather than start at December. And that's when, I wish, the auditor should have conducted a full hearing so that way he can call us all stakeholders in, people from Menzies, me, GIA, and get the whole story.
For now, the issue is grounded with the OPA, but JMI is charting a new flight path at the Superior Court. The entire ordeal costing a pretty hefty ticket.
It's disappointing in two ways. Not only are we fighting, spending money with our lawyers on the OPA, but now we got to spend more money when we go to the court system. Whereas if it stayed in the OPA and if we had a full hearing, then all the stakeholders would have been sworn in and the OPA would have learned more about the history from September, not just basing his decision on December. And solely on the word bro, which is, again, is not illegal.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Sabrina Salas, Matanani.
Looking into procurement at the Guam Department of Education is Senator Sabina Perez. The Democrat lawmaker sent over a Freedom of Information Act request to GDOE, wanting information about maintenance services, air conditioners, and computers. Specifically, she wants all communications as well as meeting notes. GDOE has acknowledged receipt and is working on their response. The government of Guam continues to ride high on tax revenue collection, says Budget Director Lester Carlson, and he's very confident about next fiscal year 2023's proposed spending plan of nearly $1 billion, which is $50 million more than this year, Nestor Lecanto reports.
Budget Director Lester Carlson says just take a look at the very strong general fund collections. Fiscal year 2021 ended $60 million higher than expected, and that strong performance continues, he says, in fiscal 2022, with more than $35 million over projections in the first quarter ending in December. If that's not proof enough, he says, they checked revenue collections for January, and it's $11 million over projections, so now they're $47 million ahead so far in FY 2022.
There was some concerns about the cessation of KUA and what that would do. I understand there might be still some thoughts that without PUA we're doomed, but we're not seeing that. The penchant for people to say that residents are going to spend less isn't showing up in tax collections, and it's not showing up in the grocery store, and it's not showing up at Island Girl Coffee.
Senators we've spoken to, though, remain skeptical. They aren't convinced that the economy can ride high when tourism, the main pillar of our two-pillar economy, can plunge with little sign of an immediate resurgence.
We're in the middle of Cope North. There's 2,500 troops. We've been, we have a plethora of military construction contracts going on. We've got the big development, in Tamuning, the Don Quixote. I see construction all over. And one of the things that people really need to understand is that construction drives the local economy.
Government line agencies must submit their individual budgets by mid-March. Then the budget hearing process will begin. Carlson and the administration are standing pat on their numbers.
I'm very, very comfortable with what it is that we've been trying to say. And I think if you look at what the governor has blessed and what Edward Byrne and I have tried to get the legislature to, adopt, I think our numbers have been and will continue to be born with more support behind them.
The legislature is required to submit a budget plan to the governor by the end of August. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Meanwhile, according to the Budget Bureau, the governor still has more than $400 million in unspent American Rescue Plan money.
That was by design, Nestor. These funds are available to December of 2024. This is not supposed to be something that is just used without regard for future growth needs. And a lot of the funding that you see that hasn't been touched yet has a future design to it. Department of Public Works, for example, there is a lot of money in road paving, things that we haven't been able to do much of in the last few years because of budgetary constraints.
We asked Carlson, is the administration might also use some of the remaining ARP funds for additional direct relief programs for cash-strapped residents?
I think people tend to forget how much of the CARES Act and the ARP money has gone directly either to residents or to businesses. So, we're at a situation where I really believe that people need to stop and think about what it is that she's provided to the legislature and the breadth of the programs that are being, supported.
Carlson said that money is not designated to be used for agency budget shortfalls. Governor Lulian Guerrero's recent announcement of an across-the-board pay raise for law enforcement personnel has sparked a renewed call for a government-wide compensation study. Appropriations Chairman Joe San Agustin wrote to the governor to remind her that current budget law authorizes a study of all GovGuam positions. He said it will provide senators with the tools necessary to understand the scope and levels of the appropriations required to ensure parity across the government. He said he will also look forward to providing additional support to our hardworking government personnel. Well, we got some private sector reaction. Phil Leddy is the new executive director of Action PAC, the political action committee backed by every major local business association.
But the truth of the matter is a lot of our frontliners or our public sector, the police officers and the medics and whatnot, they are deserving of pay raises. But at the same token, we need to look at it from both sides of the spectrum. If we are going to, as a government, be able to afford the pay raises for these public employees, we also got to think what's financial, I don't want to call it burden, but what financial weight are we putting on businesses by also forcing them to increase minimum wages?
San Agustin's letter also points out that the last government-wide compensation plan, known as the Hayes Study, was implemented in 2010, but was suspended the next year due to fiscal constraints. A long-awaited shipment of test kits has finally arrived. With more, here's Daniel Perez.
According to Public Health COVID-19 Incident Commander Fernando Esteves, Guam currently has 15,631 test kits, with another 8,500 PCR test kits that arrived today. With more test kits on the way, Public Health looks to reevaluate their testing strategy.
The future really is going to be more towards home testing. So we're looking at some initiatives to fill in the gaps for the test kits that are provided to the community. Because as we've done when we were very judicious with our testing strategy, when we were limited in supplies, is we were focusing on the high risk individuals. Now, for all of those, everyone else who want to get tested for other reasons, if we have the supplies, absolutely, we want to open it back up to them. We also want to find other methods and ways to provide them testing without having to come to our community testing sites.
Even if they turn to home testing for most, Estevez says public health still needs to catch those cases that are high risk. Public health is still looking at how effective this will be, as it all depends on the supply and ability to provide rapid tests and the ability to provide other tests such as the PCR.
When we have enough rapid tests that we can push out to the clinics, and when we have enough PCRs that we can have presently. So assuming that all of the testing supplies come in, then based on the projections that we have, we'll be looking to open that back up as well. Maybe when the second order comes in, then we'll revisit and we'll make the determination at that point. But I won't do it unless the supply is there.
Public health anticipates an additional 25,000 rapid tests to arrive this week.
Meanwhile, the CNMI is essentially reopening its borders after lifting its on-arrival COVID-19 testing requirements. Tomas Manglutnia has the details.
The CNMI has opened its borders for the fully vaccinated, no longer requiring COVID-19 testing upon arrival. CHCC spokesperson Gil Lefoyfoy.
The data that we're seeing here in the CNMI is that we're identifying cases in the community more than we identify cases from travel.
However, all passengers still need to upload proof of vaccination and complete a health declaration form before boarding, which also asks for secondary verification of vaccination if you received your shots outside of the CNMI. If you are unvaccinated, you are required to quarantine at home for at least 5 days and test on day 5. If fully vaccinated travelers want to get tested on day 5, they can go to a community-based testing site. Travelers to Rota and Tinian can schedule their test at the health centers on island.
Surveillance of COVID-19 at the border isn't the best predictor of the burden here to our healthcare system. So we're shifting the focus on medically significant community infections.
The shift comes after the CNMI reached a 99% vaccination rate, with half of those who are fully vaccinated also boosted. Tomas Manglutnia for KUAM News.
For more news, check out KUAM.com. I'm Hannah Devonza. We'll see you tonight on Primetime.
This news update is brought to you by Pacific Points. Do more, get more. By Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Tomas Manglutnia brings us regional headlines as he masterfully does each and every day here on the show. As a CNMI senator is questioning why former Guam Senator Will Castro is receiving a salary exceeding the cap set for the CNMI Governor's Chief of Staff, and why someone local was not hired.
I am not convinced that we do not have anybody in our Commonwealth market that could fill this position that is currently being occupied by Mr. William M. Castro.
NMI Senator Edith De Leon Guerrero calling into question former Guam Senator Will Castro's hiring as Governor Torres's Chief of Staff last October. In a letter to the legislature in January, the governor notified lawmakers that Castro will be paid $80,000 a year, exceeding the $65,000 cap for his position set by the Compensation Adjustment Act. The senator wants to see a more diligent effort to hire locally first.
Just because maybe they're not Harvard graduates, that may seem to be why this person, Mr. William M. Castro, would be the ideal person to hold the position. Mr. President, I think we need to take a careful look internally and really go by the statute that is telling us that there has to be some kind of due diligence effort made.
Tuesday morning, the CNMI governor sent media a statement defending Castro and attached to the email his resume and a 15-page CV, including references for contact. When he was first hired in October, Torres described Castro as a son of the Marianas, citing his work at the Northern Marianas College and with the Marianas Working Group.
Having him back home is a plus for all of us, especially for me and my administration.
It's definitely going to be the opportunity of a lifetime.
But not everyone in the administration is on board. In October, Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios, who's running for governor this year, told KUAM that he learned about Castro's hiring by reading the newspaper.
More power to him. He's got a good job. Probably he's got a nice contract, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are laughing.
It's yet to be seen who who will have the last laugh. Tomas Manglotnya for KUAM News.
We want to see your football fan love in time for Valentine's Day and the big game on February 14th. KUAM News and KUAM Digital are rounding up and showcasing football lovers all over the island every day before the big game and giving one lucky fan and their loved ones the chance to win the ultimate game day Valentine's Bash at home. All you got to do is send an email to promotions@KUAM.com with the subject Love and Football, or tag and send a DM to the KUAM News page on Instagram. Make sure to include your name and contact info and your Love and Football story. Each and every submission will be entered to win a Game Day Love Fest at their home on Valentine's Day, including a brand new 65-inch 4K TV from Buddy's Home Furnishings, party platters from participating restaurants delivered by Uno Go, beverages and swag from Heineken and Stoli, sweet treats, roses for your loved ones, and much more. One lucky winner will be announced on the air on February 11th. Some conditions apply. Winner must be a resident of Guam, must be 21 years or older, and must be available to be featured in a live shot from their home on Game Day, Monday, February 14th.
See KUAM.com for complete rules and regulations. Love and Football is presented by Uno Go and Buddy's Home Furnishings. Let us show you why Buddy's is better. Jamaican Grill, Yaman, together we can. Heaven Sent, the essence of all things beautiful. The Bottle Shack, Heineken and Stoli. Enjoy responsibly. And CS Cafe.
Let us know what's up on our KUAM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Hey, good morning. Frontier Supply Incorporated has an immediate job opportunity. If you guys are looking for a job, heads up for the following position in Tamuning, Guam. Civil engineer. Apply professional engineering knowledge and expertise to analyze construction drawings and building blueprints. Determine which products, equipment, components, and systems the company can supply to the client to fulfill project requirements. Create project proposals for clients that meet engineering requirements. Oversee delivery and installation to ensure materials meet strict quality control standards and conform to functional specifications and customer requirements. Applicants must possess a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and 2 years of post-baccalaureate verifiable work experience in civil engineering. Applicants must also be proficient in the use of engineering computer programs such as Primavera or CAD. If interested, please submit resumes by mail to Frontier Supply Incorporated. Attention, John McDonald, 153 East Segundo Leon Guerrero Street, Tamuning, Guam, 96913. Let's go to welcome Superintendent John Fernandez, the superintendent of the Guam Department of Education, in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, John.
Good morning, guys. Good to see you guys again. And I'm happy to start wherever you want to start. Just a lot still going on,
right,
with regard to our current wave. And I don't know if you just want to get to questions. I'm happy to start wherever you want to start.
Yeah, let me run down some questions that Isaiah sent. I guess the first one we wanted was your response to Senator Sabina Perez's FOIA request regarding maintenance and equipment procurement.
Well, we're the subject of many FOIA requests from the community and from senators at times. So it's definitely something we're used to in terms of providing information necessary for our lawmakers to get a good understanding of what situations we're dealing with when it comes to procurement and so forth. So we'll be obviously all of our FOIA requests get referred to our legal department so that we can ensure that we're following the law in terms of providing all the information that's required. And I don't have any issues providing that information. Sometimes the only thing that I think would be concerning is when is in the event that you're dealing with complaints by vendors that go to senators and getting questions that might have to do or might impact on ongoing procurements. But in those cases, we just simply respond that that information might not be available due to those ongoing procurements until such time as they become public. But if it has to do with past procurements, we're happy to share that information. And are there any further questions that we can answer? We're happy to answer those issues. The procurement process, as you know, is I guess what we just say, it's quite complicated, to those who are not familiar with the process. But we have a team that's experienced, and we definitely know that certain types of procurement, we get a lot of competition from vendors, and have been used to dealing with protests, concerns, and other issues that have been raised. But we feel we've done pretty well with our record and with our record before the OPA and so forth. So we'll be providing that within the necessary time frame, and then we'll see if there's any further follow-up from her office.
John, are you kind of assuming maybe the intent of it is procurement delays? Are there currently some appeals in play?
Yeah, so we do have a number of procurement that get protested. I mean, I'll just say in general, on the technology side, we tend to get a lot of protests on the technology side. It's really a competitive market, and so vendors who compete for our technology business will be very active in looking at the process and determining whether they have grounds for protest. But we typically see a lot of protests on the technology side, including our latest one that we hope we're moving through is the MiFis that were protested last November to provide MiFi services to our students and extend that opportunity. I think we also have I'm following up to get an update on our HEPA. Our HEPA filters were under protest as well, and so these are large purchases, high volume purchases, and we do anticipate that vendors will be competing to get that business. On the other hand, we have to weigh that against the delays in getting products and services to our classrooms and to our schools. So those are the types of things we're dealing with. I was asked yesterday about whether this issue with that came up with the OPA on another with another vendor, another agency was impacting us, and I don't think so at the moment. But again, we're paying attention because we want to make sure that we get good guidance. If anything's changing or anything that we need to know, we need to make sure that our procurement efforts are done to minimize protests, and ensure that we have the best chance of getting our supplies and equipment to our schools.
So, John, I mean, does it just seem like you guys have a lot of protests going on, or?
Well, no, I would just say right now it's really on the technology side, and then we have one major HEPA filter procurement. Otherwise, we've been able to get the PPEs out. We've been able to get other supplies. We've been able to get laptops. We've been able to get instructional materials out the door. So it's not on every procurement, but we do notice that when it comes to telecommunications, that seems to be a hot spot. And then certain high volume purchases, there may be a lot of competition from the vendors where that becomes an issue, and they protest due to a detail or a step in the process that they don't feel right about. So, but I think for the most part, we've been, we have the experience and the capabilities of doing our best to avoid or minimize those protests. But like I said, in the telecom side, it just seems to be a hot spot. No pun intended. So.
See what he did there with the MiFis. John, now that the public health was in the news, they're having a big party. A bunch of test kits arrive, more on the way. Now that those test kits have arrived on island, when will GDOE and how, I guess, will you guys begin swabbing kids for COVID?
That's actually our. I'll be candid with you. That's our last priority in our screening, in our testing plan, and part of that is due to the different, to where we are with the current COVID-19 wave, and it aligns, with public health's prioritization, as well as with the available supply of test kits. And then, of course, the resources to administer testing. So when you look at the big picture, we have 41 school sites in the central office. We have nurses in every school and staff who are trained to do the testing. And based on the supply of testing, our first priority had been to test the unvaccinated employees pursuant to the governor's mandate that all GovGuam employees be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. So I believe the last time I looked at the numbers, we were about 150 employees who require testing on a weekly basis. So that means we have to have 150 tests at least, right? Every week available to meet that requirement. Where we're looking to expand, and especially with the supply of testing coming in now, is to be able to provide school-based testing for those employees who are symptomatic or who have been identified as close contacts and would like to get tested, and to be able to do that at the school site instead of having them go to a centralized testing site, outside of work. So, we have the authority to do that, and we've been working on the protocols and the consent forms to enable that to happen. But we've been waiting for an assurance that we would have a supply of tests that we could rely on to be able to expand, to phase 2. And phase 2 again is for vaccinated employees who are symptomatic or who may be close contacts who we recommend testing. The third step for us would be to expand it to be able to test students who want to get tested and who are symptomatic, or who require testing to compete in sports. So for that, we need additional authorization. Right now, our authorization for our nurses is to test employees. So we would have to expand that authorization, get consent from students and parents, and then also ensure that we have available test kits. And then, once we get through those 3 phases, that last phase of 10% screening testing of students, that's something that's really gonna need that we're gonna really need to ensure that we have the testing supplies to be able to do that based on the goal and the time frame set by public health. But we met with them earlier this week, and I think we're on the same page. They understand that the testing kit supply is going to be critical to our strategy because we have such a high number of people who would need to be tested under that screening plan. Yeah. So for us, we just outlined to them that this is how we're going to proceed based on the test kits that you can provide us. And, testing symptomatic individuals is in line with public health's current strategy. And then, when we get to a point where we can rely on an adequate supply of tests, then we can look at expanding that to the 10%, goal that the governor has recommended or required. There's no time frame. If you look at the updated guidance on this, the time frame there hasn't really been a time frame for this, but we're looking at this as possibly happening no earlier than the end of the school year or possibly into next school year, depending on how the testing supply goes for the next few months.
There's a DOA circular that came out that said instead of public health providing the exemptions, religious, medical, or whatnot for the vaccination mandate, now the immediate supervisors, I believe, are now providing it. So that being said, have principals issued any exemptions to any employees who were complying with the mandate through the weekly testing?
Right. So we have, I believe, so under the new circular, there is a official form which needs to be submitted to request religious or medical exemptions, and I'm actually going to be, signing off on those exemptions once I receive them. So we do have a couple of employees that I'm aware of who have contacted us, and we've informed them that this is the process to request an official exemption, and then I'll take action on it based on the DOA guidance. Now, if you read the guidance, it doesn't give a director carte blanche to go and just make any decision. There is the possibility of medical or religious exemptions from the vaccination, but it doesn't provide any religious exemptions from testing. And so I think we're going to get into a situation where I think there are going to be, I'm anticipating requests for exemptions from testing based on religious beliefs, but the guidance that we're provided does not really authorize us to provide religious exemptions from testing. So, once I get official requests that we can work through that and respond accordingly. But again, it's not just a blank authorization. There is still guidance in there that limits when exemptions can be applied.
What about the student athletes? Are you guys issuing any exemptions for student athletes?
So the student athletes are required to do the vaccination or to do the testing. The DOA circular only accounts for employees. So under that, I'm assuming that the exemptions go to the same agency. That's something that I'll follow up on. I don't think we received any further guidance because DOA just applies to GovGuam employees. However, we're looking into expanding our testing again to be able to give the weekly test to the students if they'd like to do it, at school, because based on the testing shortage and based on the long lines and the priorities, I think they're encountering more difficulty getting those weekly tests, at the central testing sites. So that's been a recent request from our schools, whether we can provide those tests. I think we're talking about maybe 20 students right now, about 20 students out of all of our athletes who are required to weekly test. And so, it shouldn't be a high number to deal with, but we just need the proper authorizations to administer those tests.
John, we just have a few minutes left, but I did have two more questions. One, report back on, I know you took a recent trip, so if we could get some info on that, and then also on the school break-ins. I understand there was a break-in over the weekend at Emiluhan in Jotnia.
Yeah. So the trip I took was to the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, the WASC, our accrediting body, where I serve as a commissioner. So there are 3 meetings a year, and so I was there for 4 days to complete my duties and responsibilities as a commissioner. As part of that, it was interesting to observe. I mean, number one is we had a chance to meet with our colleagues, from the Hawaii school system, they were our hosts this trip, and they're going through the same situation that we are, detailing staff out to support the schools, try to keep them open. They've noticed that their numbers have plateaued and started to decline. So you know how it is when it hits Hawaii, if their numbers start to go down, we're waiting for that to happen here. I just looked at our numbers, and our numbers, even if you follow the 7-day trends, they seem to be dipping a little bit, but you don't know if it just means that it's going to plateau at that high level. If it plateaus at that high level, it's not going to help, but we really want to see that curve come down. So I just got to tell you, I was talking to my colleagues. They're saying that the numbers are coming down. They're still at high levels, but anything that it can show us that we're going in a downward direction with those cases would be helpful. But the other thing that it looks like is a lot of entities that are going through the accreditation process have really been moving to stand up a lot of online programs, right? So a lot of schools, due to COVID-19, and similar to what we're doing on Guam, are setting up standalone online education platforms. Just looking out for the long term, I think that it's something that we need to look at on Guam. That we're planning to look at, which is online, is not going to go away when COVID-19 goes away. So we're going to be, looking at establishing a longer-term online program for students, and I think that's definitely going to, we're seeing that happen in schools in Hawaii and in California, private and public. So that's really something for us to kind of be aware of. With regard to the break-ins, I'll just go ahead and I mean, for those who know. I do have a family in the area, in the Emiluhan area, in Jonia in general, and I just have to. We're gonna be sitting down with GPD hopefully on a number of issues. But with regard to the break-ins, again, I've been working with the principal to kind of share information and get updates. But what I do know is that there are break-ins happening, next door in the community. So this is really broader than the school. I mean, obviously we want to protect our schools, and our teams are working to see what we can do to enhance our school security measures. But it's no surprise when you're seeing nearby homes and to the schools being broken into, and then the next thing you hear is the schools being invaded as well. So it's a bigger issue than just the schools. What's happening, throughout the villages, and specific to MU Lahan. My concern is that there was a rash of break-ins prior to the break-in at MU Lahan, and I think that we just need to step up our efforts to monitor and watch, for those unfamiliar faces who might be, cruising the streets, looking for easy things to steal. So, but we're going to be meeting with GPD on that and kind of thinking through how we can utilize funding to support school security. Federal funds might not be available for this purpose based on our latest conversations with USDOE, which makes it a tougher issue for us.
John, sorry.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Pay raises. I just got it. I've brain farted on a few other questions, but so the pay raises we did while you were gone, we had the chairman and also member Maria Gutierrez on talking about pay raises for teachers, the board and the study and all that. And then we do know that there was a GFT communique to the acting governor at that time, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. But just some of the takeaways: teacher raises not included in the governor's budget proposal submitted to the legislature. So what exactly is the timeline? And then also Mrs. Gutierrez had talked about not just teachers, but other staff who she felt were also in need of a raise. So just if we could just get the beans on all that.
So, one of the challenges with regard to compensation is that compensation for our employees really is in accordance with our unified pay structure, which is, not necessarily controlled within the Department of Education. So we rely on the pay structure, the Competitive Wage Act, and so forth, which usually is handled at a higher level with the executive branch and then with the legislature to approve those raises and make those funding sources available. With the educator pay study, my worry is that we're working with the administration, and I know it's the priority of the governor to get this done. But when we had our conversation, she said, "Well, you guys, take the lead on it." And I said, "Okay, well, we were under the impression that the pay study was going to be ongoing with DOA." So, we clarified that part. I know the legislature said that they gave us the authority to do the pay study, but they didn't give us additional money. So, we're trying to figure out, where to get this done. At this point, I think everybody's kind of said what they need to say, that they want to see our teachers and our staff get paid based on what they deserve and based on what the market demands. And at this point, I and my team are just going to have to take the lead on it and put that proposal to the board and hope that our elected officials support that proposal when all is said and done. But I just don't want the issue to get kicked around and then not get handled. So we'll be working with the governor and DOA and our legislature to clarify what we believe is fair, for our teachers and our support staff. And we hope that that we can do this, and it won't be an empty promise. That there will be resources available to make this happen if that's what's needed. So that's where it stands, and I think that was what I heard when I was off island. A lot of people talking about it, but we need to get the work done, put that proposal on the table, and we need to take the lead on it. And then we'll do that and put that forward soon.
John, sorry, last two honest mandatory summer school, and then update on Simon Sanchez and Southern High Auditorium.
So the issue with the summer school is really we're trying to clarify. I guess one of the issues we're trying to clarify is whether or not we can do mandatory summer school for students, especially those who've fallen behind, and do so without compromising federal funds that we use to support summer school. So we're working through that piece, because with some of the funds that we use for summer school, we're not supposed to be supplanting what would already be required by the local government. So every time we put a mandate forward, there are certain situations where we can't use federal funds to cover those issues. So I know that one of the efforts right now is, as we look at finalizing a decision about whether or not to mandate summer school and for whom to mandate summer school as well, we need to make sure that we have the funding available to be able to support those options. So my team right now is just trying to clarify with the US DOE and with our federal programs office whether we can, utilize our federal funds in conjunction with a mandate for certain students who have fallen behind to go to summer school and before they promote to the next grade. So I think the recommendation makes sense. I mean, we do want to make sure that we provide the opportunity for students to catch up. But now we're getting into the technicalities right now, because if we don't have funds to do it, it's going to be an empty idea. So hopefully we'll be able to resolve that in the next couple of weeks, and then let people know what the plan is on summer school. With regard to Simon Sanchez, we are we're going to have to probably make a public presentation in the next few weeks. What we're trying to do is confirm and secure construction management services for the project, which will be a key piece. And then we're working on finalizing the actual formal solicitation that would go out to the construction and financing companies to make a bid on building the project. So these next couple of months are going to be critical to finalizing those services and those solicitation documents so we can go out to bid. So right now, our focus is on completing the design, getting all of that stuff finalized. And, the next step is the big step, putting it out there for our companies to bid on so that we can get construction started.
John, I know I said two more and that's it, honest, but I lied. Rams or Bengals?
Oh, man, you're gonna make me pick. Those aren't the two teams that I normally follow, but I definitely, I know that the Guam has a big West Coast support contingency, but I'm usually rooting for the underdog. So I might be going with Joe Burrow this round, but go ahead and what is it? Go ahead and get me on Twitter, hit me up, and let me know that you disagree with me, and I get all the hate. I'm okay with that. But usually if I don't have a personal affiliation with the team, I'll go with the underdog. And so I was riding on the Brady train. This, I'm a big Patriots fan, but Tom Brady's part of that. But now that he's out, I'm gonna probably just go for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They've been out of it for such a long time. So yeah, I'm gonna let me just check my social media. It might be blowing up now.
John, how about that halftime show though? That seems like it's gonna be better than the game, maybe.
Yeah, that'll be it would take us back to the 90s.
Yeah, the people don't know John's gangsta. It's so the halftime show. It's Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige. Right, it's crazy.
Somebody said, there might be some football going on with that Snoop Dogg concert.
Right, that's right. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
There you go. Right on. John Fernandez, GDOE superintendent. Guys, our friends at Burger King, they got a new thing popping, man. Check this out. I was just looking at this, sir. This sounds delicious. Burger King's new Double Whopper Jr. Your Way meal includes French fries, 4-piece nuggets, and a refreshing soft drink. BK, Your Way. I am so hungry. I am starving. Look at my hand. It's shaking. Because I worked out this morning. So how I would attack this, Joester, is I would get the Double Whopper Jr. and I would put the nuggets in the Double Whopper Jr. Yes, put them in there and let them get all mayonnaisey and whoo boy. It's also brought to you by, I'm talking about Cover Me. Also brought to you by Docomo Pacific. They're here to help. The Affordable Connectivity Program helps you connect to things that matter most with $30 off select internet plans. Head over to Docomo Pacific's Muning headquarters to see if you qualify. Qualifying households can get a free router with an additional $45 off for a limited time only. Visit Docomo Pacific and ask about ACP today. Docomo Pacific, better together. Well, we are better together, but unfortunately, it's time to go. Okay, so do the most with our time apart. Be safer, guys. For Jason, Serena Salas, Mantanani, Joe Sir, and the rest of the KUAM news team, my name is Chris, and we're leaving you with Cover Me right here on the link. Hasta adios.
Sits alone by lamppost, trying to find a thought that escapes her mind. She said, and Dad's the one I love the most. But Stot's not far behind. She never let me in, only tells me where she's been when she's had too much to drink. I said that I don't care, I just run my hands through her dark hair, and I pray to God you gotta help me fly away, saying let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Let her be. Morning I woke up alone, found a note standing by the phone, saying maybe I'll be back someday. I wanted to look for you, you walked in, I didn't notice what I should do, so I sat back down and I had a beer and felt sorry for myself, saying let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Let her be. Saying let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Yeah, let her be. Last night I tried to leave, cried so much I could not believe she was the same girl I fell in love with long ago. She went in the back to get high. I sat down on my couch and cried, oh mama, please remain. Won't you hold my hand, let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. And let her be. Oh, mama, please remain. Won't you hold my hand, let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be, yeah, let her be.